Previously on the Vampire Diaries.
Are you sure you're ready for this?
I'm ready. I want you to turn me.
Hello, brother.
So, anything you'd like to share?
Hey, what's up you guys, it's me Luke and welcome back to another video, or if you're new here, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, I post commentary and reaction videos on movies, TV shows, and sometimes reality TV. So if any of that interests you, consider subscribing. So today's video is part 2 of 3 in my recap of the Vampire Diaries Season 1. So this video series is not only me recapping the plot of the show, but also doing a deep dive into the characters, relationships, and mythology, plot holes, and just giving my general commentary. I love the Vampire Diaries. I've watched it since it first aired in 2009. I've been a TVD stan for over a decade now, and I've rewatched the show about 10 times. So I feel like I am a TVD veteran, and I am highly educated in the Vampire Diaries cinematic universe. So I'm happy here today to bring you this recap of the show. For those of you who have not watched the show, it is a pretty detailed recap, so you can definitely follow along. Feedback from my last video is that the girlies loved it, and they were able to follow even if they hadn't watched the show. And those who have watched the show really loved getting to pick up on things that they might not have remembered or noticed, because I am sitting in front of my computer, eyes peeled, press and pause every 2 seconds, taking a million notes. I think I got like 15,000 words per video. I'm really getting into the deets, okay? That's why I've had to split this up into 3 videos. So if you have not watched the first video in this series, go check it out. I will link it down below. That is recapping episodes 1 to 7 of season 1. That is chapter 1 of season 1 of the Vampire Diaries, self-titled as The Revelations, where our main character discovers this supernatural world, and a lot of other people get quite a few revelations. And this video is chapter 2 of season 1, which is self-titled as The Resurrection. I won't get too into that just yet because it could be considered a spoiler, and we're not spoiling the show in this video. Well, I guess we are. We're spoiling the spoilers as they happen, but I'm not spoiling you for the future. You get the drill. Just a little reminder about my mind map. The red string connecting characters indicates romantic relationships, either past or present, and the blue strings represent connections between characters that mean they are either related or part of the same family, and the X's mean that the character is dead, and the question marks mean that the character either hasn't been introduced into the show yet or is a mystery to the plot. And I know this is a very long video, so there are visual aids. There are clips, overlays, and images throughout this video from the TV show itself, so there is a lot of reference points so you understand what I'm talking about, but let's get into it. Also, I wanted to let you guys know, if you missed my last video, that I have actually started a Patreon. I've been thinking about doing this for like 6 months now due to how difficult it has been for me to post on YouTube with their strict community guidelines and copyright systems and all of that nonsense. So I've made a Patreon, and I'm starting a companion series over there to my Vampire Diaries series here on YouTube. So this is recapping the plot of the Vampire Diaries and deep diving into the characters, relationships, and mythology. And my companion videos over on my Patreon will be me actually breaking down around 3 scenes in each episode, and I will be reacting to it, but also giving my commentary and analysis and breaking down the scene in the context of the show, and also breaking down emotionally. So I will link that video down below. Part 1 is already up, so you can go ahead and watch that, and then when this video is finished, another companion video will come out. So really lots of Vampire Diaries content coming your way, guys. I really hope you're looking forward to it, because I know I am. I'm having a lot of fun with this. But without further ado, let's get into it, because I'm about to dive in to the Vampire Diaries Season 1, Part 2 of 3. Alrighty guys, just a very brief previously on the Vampire Diaries to get us up to speed, because I know it's probably been like 2 to 3 weeks since you watched the last video. At the end of chapter 1, basically Elena had obviously discovered that Stefan, the new guy she just met, is a vampire, as well as his brother Damon. These two are over 150 years old. They were in this town of Mystic Falls, Virginia that long ago when they met this woman, Catherine, who had turned them into vampires, and Catherine looks exactly like Elena. We don't know why just quite yet. And on top of this, Elena's best friend Caroline is being used by Damon to do all of his dirty work, and her other best friend Bonnie is discovering that she is a witch. Her ex-boyfriend Matt, still not really over her, and his older sister Vicky, who is dating Elena's younger brother Jeremy, has been turned into a vampire by Damon, Stefan's brother, and then killed by Stefan because she attacked Jeremy and Elena, whose parents both died, and they're being taken care of by their aunt. And Jeremy has also had a running feud with Tyler, who is the son of the mayor of this town. Are y'all keeping up? It sounds absolutely ridiculous, so that's why you have to watch the previous video to keep up. Basically, end of the last episode, Vicky gets killed. But without further ado, let's get into chapter 2 of season 1 of the Vampire Diaries, The Resurrection, which will be recapping episodes 8 to 14. Starting with episode 8, 162 Candles. So this episode begins in the Salvatore boarding house. Stefan gets woken up because he hears whooshing around his house. Someone's running around. He hears murmuring, things falling over. And then eventually he gets pinned down by a vampire. And it's very horror-esque, but we find out that the vampire is in fact Stefan's best friend, Lexi.
Hi.
And Lexi has come to town to celebrate Stefan's 162nd birthday.
I missed you.
Happy birthday.
Now, I love Lexi so much as a character. I actually have a fun fact for you guys. I doubt most of you know this, but originally Kevin Williams is a massive Taylor Swift fan, or at least was back in 2009, and he wanted to actually cast Taylor Swift to play Lexi. That would have been insane. As a Swiftie, I actually would not want that. I don't want my realms mixing together. I feel like it would suspend my disbelief, because like I've said to you guys, this show is real to me. It's canon. Why does the camera always want to focus on Damon's face instead of mine? I mean, I get it. He's very attractive, but come on now. So yeah, I feel like if Taylor Swift was in the show, it really just would have brought me out of it. So I'm glad they didn't do that, but they ended up making the character inspired by Taylor Swift because she couldn't do it because of like scheduling conflicts. However, I don't really think that there's any similarities between Taylor Swift and Lexi besides the blonde hair, but I digress. I thought you guys would just find that really fun. But I love the actress who plays Lexi. She's in Aquamarine, John Tucker Must Die. But anyway, tangent aside, Stefan and Lexi are up in his room chatting, and she's asking why he's even in this town. Obviously, it's because of Elena. So she pulls up a picture of Catherine and says, let's hope she's better than the last one. And then she complains to Stefan about how she's going to be stuck in the house for the day while he goes to school because she doesn't have a daylight ring. And Stefan and Damon are the only ones that she knows who do. So that will change very quickly. But yeah, she's a night walker. And then we cut to Sheriff Forbes, who's doing an interrogation with Stefan, Elena, Jeremy, and Matt all separately to figure out what happened to Vicky. They all basically have the same story, that she was on drugs, they tried to help her, and she ran away. So basically, Sheriff Forbes thinks she left town, and because she's over the age of 18, she's allowed to do that, and she's not going to be considered a missing person. So that mystery is kind of squashed. And after that, Stefan's waiting outside, and Elena comes over to him, because remember, at the end of the last episode, she said that she did want to try be with him, but then she did a full 180 and changed her mind, and basically said to him that people get hurt around him, they die, and she just needs him to stay away from her. And to this, I would say, okay, fair enough, but let's not forget that all the people that have gotten hurt or died since the show has started have been because of Damon. But I guess Damon is only here because Stefan's here. But that's also not true, we'll soon discover. So it's kind of upsetting that Stefan gets all the blame for that. At the Salvador house, Damon is having some banter with Lexi, and she chokes him out and says, I'm older than you, which means I'm stronger. Don't ruin my time here with Stefan. So that introduces a new lore, which is that the older the vampire is, the stronger they are. Which I feel is pretty common in vampire shows, except Twilight, where you're strongest when you're a newborn because you have your like human blood still coursing through your veins kind of thing, which the Twilight vampires are in their own realm. So over at Sheila Bennett's house, Bonnie is talking to her Grams about how she needs to leave because her dad doesn't like her being there too long, and she thinks it's because she's filling her head with all this witchy nonsense. And then her Grams notices Bonnie with the necklace, and Bonnie says she's going to give it back to Caroline, that amethyst necklace that used to belong to Emily Bennett, Catherine's handmaiden. So she gave it to Catherine, and then Catherine gave it to Damon, and then Damon hid it somewhere and stole it, and then Caroline took it from Damon, and then Caroline gave it to Bonnie. It's like a bit all over the place. But yeah, her Grams is telling her, you need to keep that. That necklace found its way back to you. You know, it's from your ancestor. Don't be giving it to anybody. So over at the Gilbert house, Jenna is moping over Logan because remember, Logan was killed by Damon, and the sheriff sent a cover-up email saying that he just went out of town. And then Elena's moping about her breakup with Stefan, and then Jeremy's kind of like, can you all keep it down? I'm trying to do my homework. And they're obviously like, what? Because at this point, he's just been a juvenile delinquent doing drugs and getting drunk all the time, skipping class. So clearly, when Damon compelled him to forget about what happened with Vicky, he must have done something else. So back to Sheriff Forbes, Damon is dropping her off some vervain, because remember Zach, their distant nephew who they called Uncle RIP, was part of the council, which remember is this group of founding family humans who are part of this group that try and protect the town from vampires, but they're actually really stupid and they don't really know much, because the town hasn't really had to deal with vampires in like over a century because of what the original founding families did, which we'll find out soon. Yeah, so he's giving her some vervain that Zach had left over because he's trying to infiltrate the council, he's trying to put on a ruse, and he's asking if they've had any more developments, and she said, no, but we've always lived under the assumption that the vampires can't come out during the day. What happens if there's another way? And maybe they can. So he starts to get really sussed out, because that's kind of what's been protecting him from being exposed, is the fact that he walks out during the day when most vampires don't. So Damon says he'll help her, which we know means he's going to find someone else to pin it on. Over in the town square, Caroline gets bumped into by Damon, and she's like straight away mad, telling him off, obviously because of the horrible way he's treated her, and he just looks her in the eyes, and his compulsion brings her back to that place.
I will be damned if you think... Oh my god. Where have you been?
And he's like, I need you to throw a party tonight at the Mystic Grill and get back that necklace. So Damon's plan is in full force. One thing about Damon Salvatore, he's gonna have a master plan. Over at the Salvatore house, Lexi's telling Stefan that he should just have sex with Elena because like sex solves everything. I'm not too sure about that. I'd like you to cite your sources, Lexi. She then whips out a cooler bag of blood bags and sticks a straw in it like it's bubble tea. And Stefan gets a bit uncomfortable and she like tries to offer him some and he says, you know, if I start, I won't be able to stop. The gist is that Stefan doesn't necessarily choose to feed on animal blood for any other reason besides the fact that he actually cannot control himself when it comes to drinking human blood. They don't delve too deep into it yet, but it definitely comes up. Damon comes in and invites them to the party at the grill and they seem a bit apprehensive, but he's like, the council is looking for the vampires. We should blend in. What better way to do that than go to this community party event? So Bonnie comes over to the Gilbert house to comfort Elena after her breakup and says sorry for being MIA. She's just been like dealing with some stuff with her grams, and Elena asks Bonnie to help her take her mind off of it. So Bonnie closes all the windows in the room, asks if the fan and AC is off, and then cuts open Elena's pillow, lets out some feathers, and starts levitating them into the air. It's honestly really beautiful and such a cute motif that comes out throughout the rest of the show. So I really do enjoy that scene. And yeah, she tells Elena,
I'm a witch.
And then Elena's like,
I believe you.
because obviously in a world full of vampires, it's not that hard for Elena to believe that witches are real. So Elena asks Bonnie if her gramps asked her to keep it a secret, why did she tell her? And Bonnie says, you're my best friend, I can't keep secrets from you. Which then Elena in that moment realizes like, wow, I'm keeping a secret from her and she's my best friend. So back at the Salvatore house, Stefan is talking to Lexi about how suspicious he is that Damon really wants them to go to this party. And she seems to be pretty chill about it, saying like, what could he possibly do in that public space with all of those people? He's like, oh, I don't know. And then he just goes to get in the shower and she had just come out of the shower. So she's in a towel and the doorbell rings. So she goes to answer it and guess who answers the door? But Elena.
Oh my God. How, oh, who?
I'm Elena.
So Elena's shocked because a naked girl in a towel just answered the door. And Lexi's shocked because remember, Elena looks exactly like Catherine. This is their first time seeing her. She's like, he's just in the shower. Do you want to wait? Or Elena's like, no, it's fine. I'll leave. So she goes, obviously looking hurt by what she's seen, making assumptions. What's that saying? To assume is to make an ass of yourself or something like that. Anyway, Lexi goes up to Stefan's room and picks up the picture of Catherine that he keeps and says, I just met Elena. You've got some serious explaining to do. And he's basically telling her, yes, you know, the initial attraction towards Elena was the resemblance. That's what drew him in. But Elena is nothing like Catherine. And Lexi's like, you know, you've got some serious emotional damage because they could literally be twins. And Stefan's like, no, it's so different. When I'm with Elena, it's real. She makes me forget what I am. And it's really cute. And Lexi's like, oh my God.
You're in love with her.
Yeah.
So cute. I love it. Okay. But also kind of sad because like they're not really together at the moment. So then over at the Gilbert house, Stefan arrives to explain to Lena who Lexi is, basically saying, nah, it's not what you think. Like she's my best friend of a really long time. She's a 350-year-old vampire. And then Elena's like, ooh, okay. She'd be feeling really stupid right then. And Elena's like, okay, well, it was really weird. She kept staring at me. And Stefan's like, yeah, well, you know, I talk about you a lot. So I guess she feels like she knows you. Okay. One thing Stefan's gonna do is come up with a really far-fetched excuse. Elena says that her coming over was a mistake and that she can't deal with the secret anymore because she feels like she has no one to talk to about it besides Stefan. And Stefan just says to her, you can talk to me anytime, I'm here for you. Which like, you're really not understanding what she's saying, Stefan, because what she's saying is she wants someone else to talk to about it. Someone who's not a vampire, someone she's close to. Bonnie. So yeah, he's still not budging on that. So then over at the Mystic Girl, the party is plopping. Caroline tries to get the crystal necklace back from Bonnie, basically saying like, oh, I changed my mind. I have 3 really cute outfits it could go with. And Bonnie's like, sorry, like you gave it to me, I'm not giving it back. And she's like, okay, well, I don't want to say this, but you know, you're my friend, so I feel like I can be honest. The necklace makes you look fat. I'm just like, what the hell, Caroline? Why being such a bitch? I mean, yes, she's under Damon's compulsion to get the necklace back, but he didn't tell her to say those things. Those were her choices. Anyway, she tries to snatch the necklace off of Bonnie and it shocks her, like how it shocked Damon when he tried to snatch it off of Bonnie. And she's like, OMG, are you wearing polyester? And Bonnie's like, wow, you're really gonna snatch it off of my neck? and then walks away. So it's not looking good for Caroline. I feel bad because, like, yes, she does say really horrible things, but also, like, part of the reason she's acting this way is because of her compulsion that Damon is putting her under that people aren't really aware of right now. So to everyone else, she just seems like a grade A bitch, which, like, she is, don't get me wrong, but, like, she's probably more of a grade B bitch, but, like, she's acting like a grade A bitch. So yeah, Damon gets really pissed at Caroline for not getting the necklace and decides to be a real big asshole and calls her useless and shallow and conceited, which just because she didn't get your necklace back? Oh my god. Because, like, she's kind of like, hey, I, like, set up this whole party for you, like, you're not even grateful, and he really doesn't give a shit. Yeah, Caroline gets really sad, so she decides to get super duper drunk, and Damon goes outside and he hears a couple making out down below in the stairs to the basement, and he goes down and attacks them. Upstairs, Lexi and Stefan are playing pool, and Elena is kind of watching them, and Damon shows up and says, well, it's nice to see Stefan happy, and she's like, well, you don't give him many reasons to be happy, and he's like, do you always have to be so self-righteous? And she says it flares up in the presence of psychopaths. Honestly, Elena, she ate. And then she asks Damon what he did to Jeremy because he's acting really different. Damon says he took away Jeremy's pain. So what I'm deducing is that Damon took away Jeremy's pain regarding the death of not only Vicky but also his parents, because the whole reason he was, like, not going to school and doing drugs and drinking was because of the grieving and the trauma from the loss of his parents. And now he's going back to his former self. Like, he's not really drinking or doing drugs that much, going to school on time, trying to get extra credit, and also getting back into art because Jeremy loves drawing. Also, the way I say Jeremy, I have to address this. So many people were commenting about how I pronounce Jeremy. You have to understand that, so originally I spent half my life in South Africa and then another half of my life here where I live in Australia. No one in either of those countries has the name Jeremy. Or how do Americans say it? Jeremy. Jeremy. It just sounds unnatural coming out of my mouth. Jeremy. Just, it does not flow off of my tongue. So yeah, I'm gonna call him Jeremy. I could call him Jer if you guys prefer that. So outside the grill, a cop drives past and hears the girl crying, the one who Damon attacked. Lexi goes to the bar to just compel the bartender to give her some shots. He goes to give one to Elena, and Elena's like, wow, Stefan is just so comfortable around you. He's always so uptight around me. But that's just what happens when you've been friends with someone for so many years. Give it time. And she tells Elena about her falling in love with a human, which I thought was really cute, which kind of gives Elena hope. But Elena's like, you know, I'm scared. Lexi says, but you're here and you're obviously crazy about him. And when it's real, you can't walk away from that. So cute. And then Lexi goes over to the pool table and Stefan had been eavesdropping on this conversation and he's like, wow, thank you. And she says, that wasn't for you to hear.
I was feeling epic. Whatever.
Which I love. Okay, so, like, I was feeling epic is, like, Stefan and Lexi's thing. It's also the title of the very last episode of the show. Fun fact. So Liz Forbes shows up outside the grill with all of her deputies and finds that girl downstairs who's crying. Her boyfriend's been attacked and killed, and she asks her what she saw and to show her. And then Caroline goes over to Matt and she's as drunk as a skunk, crying about how she feels like she's so shallow, like a kiddie pool, and she wants to be deep. She tries to be, and Matt's like, you know, being deep's not really your scene, Care. Which I thought was pretty funny. And then he takes her home because she's pretty drunk, like she can't even walk. So he's carrying her outside. They bump into Sheriff Forbes, who's like, OMG, they're serving you in there? And Caroline's like, ugh, whatever, ma. So then Matt takes Caroline home. And then she tells her deputies not to let anyone else leave. So they've got the place on lockdown now, because obviously they think the vampire's in there. So over at the bar, Lexi's getting another drink and Damon's sitting there and they're chatting and she's like, so what are you even doing here? And he's like, oh, it's all part of my big master plan. But just when this happens, that girl with Sheriff Forbes comes in and points at Damon and Lexi, and then the deputies go up to them and inject Lexi with vervain and take her out. And Damon's acting all shocked. He's like, what are you doing? And she's like, thanks for your help, Damon. We'll take it from here. So I'm not like entirely sure whether or not Damon made sure that he was purposely sitting next to Lexi so that when that girl pointed towards them, they would assume it was Lexi since they don't think Damon's a vampire and they know him, or if he compelled that girl to say it was Lexi. But I don't know how that would work because the girl has never seen Lexi before. But you know what? I'm probably overthinking it. Either way, Damon's behind this nonsense. So Stefan and Elena are talking and they see this and they try to go outside, but all the deputies are blocking off all the entrances. So they go through a back exit and they're hiding behind a wall and they're watching what's happening because obviously they don't really want to expose that Stefan's a vampire. And Lexi is being pulled by a deputy on each arm and she comes up and pushes them out the way. And And then Sheriff Forbes starts shooting her, and I'm not sure if the bullets were wooden because Lexi didn't look too affected by it, so she keeps walking towards her. But then Damon shows up and stakes Lexi in the heart, and she's whispering to him like, why? And he says, it's all part of the plan. Oh, Damon. And Stefan and Elena are watching this, and they're like freaking out. Like, Stefan looks so sad because that's his best friend. And it's just so upsetting because I love Lexi. While she does come back for flashbacks and various other ways throughout the show, I would have loved for her to be a regular part of the show. It's just like, see Stefan have a female best friend on the rig. Like, that would have been so fun, but whatever, I digress. Anyway, so after that, Sheriff Forbes thanks Damon and says, thank God this nightmare is over. But is it? Over at the Forbes house, Caroline and Matt are there, and he's putting her in bed, and she asks him to stay, so he cuddles with her. Looks like we got a new relationship brewing, guys. So obviously Stefan's really pissed about Damon killing his best friend, and he wants to kill him. And Elena's like, no, Stefan, stop, you can't. And he's like, why are you defending him? And she's like, I'm not. I'm trying to protect you. This will kill you if you kill him. I mean, she's not wrong. Like, as much as these two hate each other, they'll ride or die for each other. But Stefan says everywhere he goes, death and pain follows him because Damon follows him, which that's some true tea. And Elena says, let me be there for you. You can talk to me. And he says, no, you were right to walk away from me. And then he walks away. So they like kind of like low-key broke up, got back together and broke up all in the same episode. Over at the Salvador house, Damon, none the wiser, gets jumped by Stefan. They get in a big fight and Stefan stakes Damon, but he misses. And Stefan says, you saved my life, now I'm sparing yours. We're even. And we're done. So this is obviously when Damon saved Stefan from Logan Fell, those couple episodes past. And Damon basically is like, you know, I did this for us to get them off of our trail. And Stefan says, no, you did this for you. Because let's get one thing straight. There would not even be a trail if it wasn't for Damon, because Stefan has not been feeding on humans. Damon killed those two people in the opening scene of the pilot. He killed those two people in the opening scene of episode 2. He turned and killed Vicky. He killed all those people at the bonfire. He killed Logan. Like, shall I go on? There would not be a trail if it wasn't for him. So why does Stefan's best friend have to die to save your ass? Why couldn't he have like picked anyone else? Like, he could have, oh my god, they could have kept Vicky around and then made her the vampire. At least her death would have meant something then. Anyway, I digress. The episode ends with Bonnie laying in bed with her necklace on, and she starts having a nightmare, and the nightmare is her running around the woods getting chased by her ancestor Emily. And yeah, she basically wakes up in an abandoned graveyard, and this is a very important scene because I feel like this episode was kind of like a bridge episode. I feel like all of Damon kind of getting the council off of their trail was to end off that first chapter, and then this nightmare with Bonnie and this necklace situation is leading us into this new chapter, so I'm really excited to get into it. So let's get into episode 9, History Repeating. So we start the episode at Mystic Falls High, and Bonnie is in a classroom. She's looking very tired, but she hears something in the hallways and goes to leave the room, and the person walking around in the hallways that she's following turns out to be her ancestor Emily. And then the scene cut, and she's following her all the way into the graveyard in the forest that she woke up in the previous episode, and Emily tells her,
this is where it started, and this is where it has to end. Help me.
And then Bonnie wakes up in class and she turns around and there's Emily, and then she wakes up again in a forest. It's like a dream within a dream. Really messy and really freaky. Her waking up in the forest, is she like sleepwalking there? Or is that part of the dream as well? I am confusion. So anyway, we cut to Caroline at the school talking to Elena, and then Matt walks past and says, hey, to Caroline. And she says, hey, and then he just keeps walking, which she obviously looks kind of upset by. And Elena and Bonnie are in history class. Elena's checking to see if Bonnie's okay. And then their new teacher shows up, because remember, Mr. Tanner, where is he, is dead, so they needed a new history teacher. And that new history teacher is a new big character in the show, Mr. Lark's Saltzman, but I will be referring to him as Rick, because that's what most people in the show refer to him to, because no way in hell am I saying a lark that many times. Really fun taking off the first question mark, isn't it? And also, Stefan's not in attendance at this class, and we cut to him at the Salvatore house, and Damon is there, and they both start mimicking each other. Pretty funny, actually. You would think it's immature, but it's pretty entertaining.
Are you mimicking me?
Yes, Stefan. Now that the secret society of vampire haters is off our back, I can go back to my routine of how can I destroy Stefan's life this week?
And I can go back to sulking and Elena longing and forehead brooding. This is fun.
And then Bonnie's telling Elena about her nightmares and how she thinks she's being haunted by Emily, and it all started when she started wearing this necklace. So Jeremy has been called into the classroom by a Lark Saltzman who wants to give him another chance to get some extra credit to get his grade up. So Rick tells him to write a history paper on any topic, but keep it local, stay off the internet, keep your sources in the library, and historian sources, that kind of nonsense. Honestly, that sounds so open-ended for a freaking 15-year-old to do in high school. So Caroline sees Matt at the end of the school day, and he says, hey again, again, and she's pissed at him, like, what's with the hay? You come over to my house, you spend the night with me, to which there was cuddling, and then you leave before I wake up. Pretty lame move. And he's like, I left because I heard your mom coming home and I didn't want to get you in trouble. And as for the hay, I'm pretty sure that's what I've said to you since the first grade. Try not to read into it too much, Caroline. So yeah, she's acting pretty insane at this point. So Elena's walking outside that high school and she sees Stefan sitting at the table, and he's basically there to tell her that he won't be coming to school anymore and that he's going to keep his distance, and she's pretty upset. Honestly, this back and forth is just a lot for me. Oh, I'm getting whiplash. Then Damon ambushes Bonnie as she's walking to her car. Where is the security at this high school? Why can anyone walk onto the campus? And he wants to get the necklace back from her, and she's like, I swear to God, if you do anything, I'll scream. And he says, let me guess, you're getting some cryptic messages from Emily? Well, let Emily know that a deal's a deal, and then he lets her go. So Bonnie and Elena are driving home, and Bonnie pulls over and throws the necklace into a field. So cut to nighttime at the Gilbert house. Stefan shows up to talk to Elena, so I guess he's not really keeping his distance, but yeah, she basically asked him to come there to let him know that Damon is basically harassing Bonnie over this necklace Bonnie's ancestor Emily gave to Catherine. Stefan tells her he's going to find out the reason and get Damon off Bonnie's back. Over at the grill, Jenna is sitting with Jeremy. They're talking about his history paper, and she is observing Mr. Saltzman, who's sitting at another table, being like, I love a man who can dine alone. And he's like, I thought you were hung up on Logan. And she says, oh no, I've sworn off dating men forever. I think we've all been there. Damon and Stefan are also at the grill, continuing their mimicking of each other, their fun brother banter. And then our three main girlies, Elena, Caroline, and Bonnie, are having a sleepover, and Caroline gives a really weak apology to Bonnie about the necklace, and then gets pissed when Bonnie tells her that she got rid of the necklace because it was giving her nightmares. And then she goes over to Bonnie's bag to get some nail polish for them, and says to Elena, so like, what's happening with Stefan? Like, you guys still together? And then Elena's like, I don't know, Caroline, and gives Bonnie a look. So these two clearly just, they're not the biggest fan of this girl here. And then while she's looking in Bonnie's bag for nail polish, Caroline finds the necklace and is like, why are you such a little liar, Bonnie?
What? Caroline?
And obviously Bonnie is shook because she threw that necklace into the field, and Elena as well because she saw it happen. And they're trying to explain that to Caroline, but she's not really buying it. And Bonnie and Elena are talking to each other. Caroline gets really annoyed because she's like not really part of the conversation. And she's like, what's going on, guys? You always do this to me. Leave me out of your conversations. And Elena's like, no, we don't. And Bonnie's like, yes, we do.
I can't talk to you. You don't listen.
That's not true.
I'm a witch.
And don't we all know it?
See?
So, like, it's just, honestly, Caroline, girl, she needs to learn how to communicate. Over at the grill, Jeremy has left, and Jenna goes and talks to Rick, and they get to know each other a little bit. Jenna asks him why he has come to Mystic Falls, and he's like, oh, you know, just for a fresh start, I like the history here. Jenna's like, you know, I left town because of an ex, and now I've come back. You got any crazy ex story? And he's like, yeah, well, you know, my wife died. And she's like, oh, okay. But it's a cold case, and they haven't found out what happened to her. Over at the Gilbert house, Caroline goes over to Bonnie to make some amends, and is like, I'm sorry, that whole witchy woo-woo stuff is just not really my thing, but like, if it's yours, I'm gonna support you. And Caroline suggests that they do a seance to communicate with Emily. Bonnie's kind of apprehensive, but they go upstairs and do it anyway. They all sit in a circle surrounded by candles.
Called her.
Emily, you there?
Really? Emily, you there? That's all you got? Come on.
Fine. Jeez.
Bonnie calls Emily forth and says, I want to hear your message. And it takes a little bit, but she shows herself through the fire in the candles rising up and all of the windows blowing open, and they freak out. Bonnie pulls off the necklace, throws it on the ground, and then all of the lights turn off. And when Elena turns the light back on, the necklace is gone. So Damon and Stefan go over to the high school football field to play some vampire football. It's honestly pretty fun. And they have a bit of a deep and meaningful, and Stefan says, you know, the love we had for Catherine, it wasn't real. It was compulsion and manipulation. But Damon says he doesn't really want to get into that. Stefan asks Damon about Catherine's crystal necklace, and Damon reveals,
I'm gonna bring her back.
ooh, so there you guys know where I got the resurrection name from for the chapter. Back at the Gilbert house, Caroline thinks that Bonnie took the necklace, but Elena sees a silhouette in the hallway and thinks it's Jeremy or Jenna, so she goes outside. And Bonnie notices the necklace on the floor in the bathroom, so she goes in there to see it. And then all of a sudden, Bonnie gets locked in the bathroom and Elena and Caroline are trying to get her out of the bathroom by trying to open all the doors, because it's like a Jack and Jill bathroom, so there's like a door on the outside, a door into each room. There's like 3 doors, which those bathrooms are weird to me. Like, if you're showering, do you need to lock all 3 doors so no one comes in? The lights start flashing. It's pretty hectic. And then when the lights finally stop and they open the door, Bonnie seems completely unfazed.
What happened? Are you okay?
I'm fine.
And Caroline's like, wow, you were just faking it, Bonnie? Elena's like, Bonnie, are you okay? And she says, I'm fine. Everything is fine. And then we see in the bathroom Emily's reflection in the bathroom mirror. So clearly Emily has now possessed Bonnie. I really like the depiction of being able to see who's possessing her in the mirror. I thought that was pretty cool. So cut to the brothers. Stefan is asking how we can bring Catherine back. And he says, during all the hysteria of the townspeople trying to round up and kill the vampire, Damon went to Emily and asked her to help Catherine. And she did it with a spell using that crystal necklace. And while the church was burning that Stefan thought Catherine was in, there's actually a tomb underneath the church that was magically sealed shut, which was there to protect Catherine. Basically, he's saying that she's kind of alive, but she hasn't had blood for 150 years, so she's like desiccated, but she's able to be brought back to life. Because remember last chapter we talked about how vampires don't die if they don't feed, they just desiccate. Damon tells him that witches use celestial events to draw on power, and Emily used a comet that night to give the crystal its power. In order for it to work again, the comet has to come again, which remember happened in episode 2, so that's already come and gone. And Stefan asks Damon why would Emily do this for him, and he says that because the townspeople were coming after the witches too, and he promised to protect her bloodline. Hence why he has not really been violent towards Bonnie at this point.
Yeah, it's the only thing keeping me from ripping that little Bonnie girl's throat out to get my crystal back.
So over at the Gilbert house, Bonnie's talking in a very strange voice saying she has to go back to where it all began. And she's walking down the stairs and Elena realizes, OMG, Emily? And Emily/Bonnie turns around and says, I won't let him have it. It must be destroyed. And she runs out and the door closes. Elena and Caroline run down, try and open the front door. It won't budge, but eventually it does. And it's Jeremy at the front door and they freak out of it. Elena calls Stefan and tells him what happened. And Stefan's like, do you have any idea where she could be? And Elena remembered Bonnie's dream. She woke up at the abandoned graveyard in the forest where Fell's church was. The church that was burned with the tomb under it. See how it's all connecting? And Damon had been eavesdropping on this entire conversation, so when Stefan gets off the phone, he's gone. He's zoomed off and he finds Emily/Bonnie in the woods and tries to attack her because she's going back on their deal. But she just telekinetically throws him into a tree where a branch goes through his torso. And something to mention is Damon was trying to prove something to Stefan, so he was kind of, I think, feeding on animal blood during this episode.
Sorry. And to prove it, I'm not gonna feed on a human for at least a week.
So he wasn't very strong, so he can't really get himself off of this branch on the tree. So Rick had walked Jenna home from the grill and they look like they had a decent amount of fun, and he stays outside the front door and looks at the door frame, which to me is like a bit of a misdirect. They're trying to make us think he's a vampire. Who knows? Maybe he is. She says, you know what, I'm not going to invite you in, Jeremy. And then we cut to Jeremy, who's in a box of his dad's old things, and he pulls out a journal for his history paper and he opens it and it says Jonathan Gilbert, 1864. Now remember this journal because it's very important in this chapter. I mean, we all know journals are important in general in this chapter. It's funny how it's not like the vampire journals. No one calls it diaries in this, except Elena, I guess. Over in the forest, Stefan shows up and pulls Damon off of the tree, and Bonnie/Emily tells him that these people don't deserve this kind of evil, to which Stefan finds out that Emily not only saved Catherine in the tomb, but she had to save all of the vampires. So Stefan's like, Damon, you weren't going to tell me this? You can't release 26 vampires onto this town. And Damon's like, let it happen. These people deserve it. And he says, you can't punish them for what their ancestors did. So Emily/Bonnie goes ahead with her plan and makes like a pentagram in the dirt and stands in the middle of it and lights it on fire so that no one can penetrate it. And she's standing there doing a spell and she throws the necklace into the air and destroys it. Damon's like, no! And then when all the fire goes out and Bonnie/Emily turns back to just Bonnie, Damon speeds towards her and starts drinking her blood. And to mention, Elena had just arrived at this point. Stefan goes and stops Damon, and Bonnie's like about to die. And he feeds Bonnie his blood, and Elena's like, oh my god, it's healing. So I guess this is her first time finding out the vampire's blood can heal people. Over at the Forbes house, Matt crawls through Caroline's window, and then he just comes in to tell her that when they were cuddling in the bed, it creeped him out because he doesn't really like her in that way, but at the same time it felt nice, and you were all sad, and I felt bad for you. OMG, Matt, why would you think this is something she wants to hear from you? And she's just like, okay, thanks for the charity. And he's like, no, I get it. With Vicky and my mom being gone, I know what it's like to be alone. So that's pretty cute, because Caroline, yeah, she does spend a lot of time alone because her mom works so much. Over at the forest, Damon's talking to Stefan and says Catherine never compelled him. He knew everything along the way. It was real for him, and he'll leave Mystic Falls now. And at the car, Bonnie is talking to Elena. She's like super confused about what happened, and Stefan shows up, and Elena's like, no, don't worry, he's not gonna hurt you. She gets in the car, and Elena tells Stefan that she wants to tell Bonnie the truth. She needs someone to talk to about this. She can't live in secret. And you save her, Stefan. I thought I couldn't be with you, but I can. Don't push me away. And he says, no, I can't. I have to go. I have to go. Too many people have died. I can't be with you anymore. Coming back here was a mistake.
You don't have to. This is your home. Just please don't go.
Goodbye, Elena.
Don't walk away, Stefan. Stefan!
So sad, but also at the same time, how many goddamn breakups do we have to go through? Can somebody keep track? Because I can't. So then we get a little montage of a couple different scenes at the end of the episode, which they usually do. At home, Jenna is looking at a box of her old things, sees a photo of her and Logan, and rips it in half. Matt and Caroline are laying in bed with a shit ton of snacks. Low-key, they look like they're high and got the munchies, but I digress. Damon is brooding in a forest, looking super sad. Stefan's brooding in his room, looking at his journal and crying. Elena and Bonnie are in Elena's bed, crying, just a lot of crying basically. And then the Gilbert house's doorbell rings and Jenna answers it, and guess who's standing at the door?
Hello, Jenna. Aren't you gonna invite me in?
Logan fell. Boom. So yeah, he was not dead after all. Alrighty guys, moving on to season 1 episode 10, The Turning Point, which is a very fitting name because this is actually the mid-season finale, and boy is this a good episode. So over at the Gilbert house, Logan is trying to get Jenna to invite him in so they can talk, but she's obviously very pissed because she thinks that he just disappeared and ghosted her. So she ends up shutting the door on him and he walks away and ends up bumping into this woman who's jogging, and he bites her in the neck. So yeah, he is actually a vampire. So let's figure out how that happened. The next day at the Gilbert house, Jeremy is reading his ancestor's journal, Jonathan Gilbert, and he's talking about something dark and mysterious. And then Jeremy, inspired, I guess, starts sketching, which he hadn't done in a while. And Elena is like, OMG. And Jenna and her are excited about that. Jeremy's like becoming his old self again, but they're not going to say anything because they don't want to make him stop. And Jenna also reveals to Elena that Logan is back, which I don't think Elena actually knows that Logan is dead or was killed by Damon. So interesting. We'll see how that plays out. So over at the Salvatore house, Damon and Stefan are talking about leaving town. Damon's like, where are we gonna go? We could go to London, visit some friends. And Stefan's like, Damon, you don't have any friends. And he's like, you're right, I just have you. So where are we going, Stefan? And he's like, I'm not going anywhere with you.
I'm gonna live my life as far away from you as possible.
But we're a team. We could try out for the Amazing Race.
Just while they're having this conversation, Sheriff Forbes arrives to talk to Damon. They go and talk outside, and Damon's like, I'm sorry for the secrecy. It's just that Stefan doesn't know about this yet, and I don't want to tell him this. He's too young. And she's like, yes, we should protect the children, which is so funny because like Stefan's like so much older than her, but obviously as far as she is aware, he's 17 years old and Damon is 25. So the reason Sheriff Forbes has stopped by is to tell Damon that even though they thought this nightmare was over with the vampire, they've actually found a few other victims who have neck wounds on their neck and severe blood loss. Ergo, there must still be vampires around. And she's like, I don't know how much longer we can keep lying to the town. I don't know if they're going to keep buying this animal attack stuff. Stefan, being a vampire, is eavesdropping in this entire conversation.
Let me know what you come up with.
Absolutely.
What is wrong with you? You killed somebody?
If I had, it wouldn't have been so obvious about it. There's another vampire in town.
So over at the high school, Caroline and Matt are chatting, walking down the hallway. It's very cutesy. And Elena and Bonnie are looking at them being like, whoa, that's new. Like very surprised by the situation. And Elena's asking how Bonnie's doing. And she says she's just like super freaked out about when Damon attacked her because now she knows about vampires. They didn't compel her. Well, you can't actually compel a witch because they are a supernatural being themselves. So Stefan goes to the high school and lets Elena know about this new vampire in town. And she's like, oh my God, yet again, what the hell? And we also cut to Caroline, who's in the parking lot of some abandoned warehouse, and Damon shows up and she's like, why do you need me to do this anyway? And we see that she has that magical vampire compass, and he says, because I interfere with the signal, and he compels her to forget about this and go on with her day. Once again, he's still using Caroline to do his dirty work. Why has Elena not given Caroline vervain at this point, honestly? So Damon walks into the warehouse and gets shot by Logan. He's obviously very shook that he's alive and that he's a vampire, wanting to know who turned him, but Logan says he has no idea what happened. He woke up buried alive and had to crawl his way out of a grave. After he had fed, he couldn't go in the sunlight, and he couldn't even get into his own house.
You have to be invited in. I know. I live alone.
Oh, that sucks.
That doesn't make any sense, because if Logan owned that house and lived alone there and he died, that means no one owns the house anymore, so he should be able to enter it. So that to me seems like a plot hole, because I'm pretty sure that's happened before later down the show, where if like someone who owns the house dies, then you can get in it. Later that night at the high school, it's kind of like a careers night, and Sheriff Forbes and Mayor Lockwood are freaking out about this new vampire and how they're going to protect their kids. And then we cut to Tyler looking at some art display, and Jeremy shows up.
What do you want?
Hey, just surprised to see you here. Art usually implies culture, and culture implies, well, not you.
Go to hell.
I don't know, like at this point, Jeremy's the one starting shit, and Tyler's like, whatever, and walks away. And then Jeremy looks down and notices that one of the artworks on display is actually Tyler's. So he must feel like a big idiot after that. So Elena shows up and she bumps into Matt, and the two of them are kind of like reminiscing about the good old days or whatever, which obviously upsets Caroline because she's interested in Matt romantically now. But luckily, Stefan shows up to interrupt this mess. Back at the abandoned warehouse, Logan is pretty persistent about how he wants to know how Damon walks in the sun. There's nothing in the journals about that. Damon's like, what journals? And he's like, the founding family journals that they pass on. So it looks like every founding family has journals, I guess. Damon's basically like, you can't, okay? Only me and Stefan can. He's like gatekeeping walking in the sun, as he should. Obviously, Logan's not too happy with that, so he continues to shoot Damon and leaves. Meanwhile, he's shooting Damon with wooden bullets, which obviously actually causes damage to vampires. So Damon would have to like pick out every wound out of his body in order for the wound to heal. So he's like pretty incapacitated at this point. So Stefan had showed up to the career day to check up on Elena and make sure she's safe. And she's asking him what he used to want to be, and he said he used to want to be a doctor. Now he can't because of the blood. Pretty rip. And he says he's dabbled in a lot of different things, and she's like, oh, I didn't love any of them enough to stick to it. Because remember, at this point she's really pissed because he is breaking up with her and leaving town. And he says no, he loved them all, but he just had to move on before anyone noticed he was getting older. And this hits hard for Elena because she realizes that like even if she does stay with Stefan, he cannot stay in one place for that long because of the fact that he doesn't age. I don't know why she didn't realize this before, but I digress. He asks Elena what she wants for her future, and she says she doesn't want to talk about her future with him because he's made it pretty clear that he doesn't want to be a part of it.
It's not that I don't want to be in it.
You can't. I get it. I hurt you the first time and the second time. And I appreciate you looking out for me, but please, if you're gonna leave, then just go.
Which, like, fair point, because he keeps saying he's gonna leave, but then he keeps loitering around her. There's always gonna be a reason for him not to leave. She's never gonna be safe. But the awkward conversation is saved and interrupted by Jenna, who comes over to Elena and is like, oh my god, like, douche alert. And Elena's like, ugh, Logan's here? Because she doesn't know. And Stefan's like, excuse me, Logan? So Stefan goes over to Logan and he has a malicious grin. These two follow, and Stefan gives Elena a look like, the vampire is Logan. And she's like, Jenna, why don't you come with me? So basically Logan has come to talk to Stefan because remember, he wants to be a daywalker. And Stefan's like, I'm not gonna help you because Logan threatens him and he, don't ever threaten me, I'll kill you. Which he can very well. Like Logan has been a vampire for like, what, 2 weeks? He's been a vampire for 145 years. Damon's back home on the phone talking to Stefan about how he wants to rip Logan's head off. And then when Stefan hangs up, Elena's there and is like, you got something to explain? So Caroline brings her mom over to a store and tells her that this is her future, broadcast journalism. And her mom's like, you don't even read the newspaper. And Caroline gets pissed off because obviously her mom is not very good at being supportive, but at the same time, fair point. Like, it kind of seems like she plucked this interest out of thin air. Although, if you know, you know, I don't think this is a spoiler, but like in season 7, Caroline actually does become like a news anchor. So I think that is kind of fun. Then Caroline walks away and Logan shows up to Sheriff Forbes and she obviously freaks out realizing he's a vampire. And she goes to grab her gun, which I don't know why she would considering she's in a public place, but I digress. And Logan was friends with Sheriff Forbes and like the founding families were all connected, so he's really upset with the way that she handled his death. But she's like, what else did you expect me to do? And he's like, I was one of you. And she's like, well, now you're one of them. So yeah, the beef's no longer medium rare, it's fully cooked. And yeah, he's basically like, you better watch your back, and walks away. So she calls in her deputies. I need backup for a V5. So does V5 mean vampire? Is that their code? So I don't really understand what Jeremy's reason for doing this is, but he goes up to Tyler and keeps wanting to talk to him about his art and what he's into. And Tyler's like, oh, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, it's just another thing we have in common. And he's like, what, you mean that we slept with the same chick? Why don't you go and find another guy who screwed Vicky? There's no shortage of them. This toxic masculinity nonsense will never end. And then Mayor Lockwood says he's going to take them out back to give them a talking to. And Rick's like, what are you going to do? And he's like, I'll handle it. So Caroline's outside because she can't find her ride, which was Bonnie. And she ends up getting picked up by Logan, taking a lift from him. She trusts him because he used to babysit her. And so now Matt sees this interaction. And then Caroline's like, wow, this is fate because I want to do broadcast journalism. Can I ask you some questions? And Logan's like, yeah, just buckle in first. And then when she's doing that, he smashes her head against the glass window. And then he drives off. Our girl Caroline can never catch a break. She's the pawn in so many people's games.
Hey, have you seen Loganville, the news guy?
Yeah, you just gave Caroline a ride home.
Over in the car park at the high school, Mayor Lockwood is encouraging Tyler and Jeremy to fight it out, settle it like men. He's like, don't be pussies fighting in the hallways. Come outside and beat each other up like a man. And they're like, I don't want to do that. And he like hitting Tyler over the head, like, do it, do it. And then Rick shows up and is like, what are you doing?
Who do you think you're talking to? Do I look like a student?
No, you look like a full-grown alpha male douchebag.
I could have you sacked. I could take away your job. And he's like, oh, why don't you try? Then it'll be me you're dealing with out here in this parking lot. Boom. Which, like, I'm not even sure why Mayor Lockwood was so scared of Rick to, like, let these boys go and, like, let him get his way. I mean, I agree with him. He was protecting them from the psychopath, but he's not really big or buff, so did he feel like he couldn't take him? Is it because he's the mayor? Either way, Rick saves the day and breaks up this fight. Something to know, which I thought was really interesting for those of you who have watched the show, is that when this is all ending, Mayor Lockwood says to Rick, you've just marked yourself. I mean, so Sheriff Forbes is driving her car and she gets a call from Logan Fell, who says he has Caroline. Obviously she freaks out and he says that he's going to turn Caroline into a vampire. But just as he's saying this, he's pulling up to a stop sign and Damon and Stefan jump his car, pull him out, and Stefan takes Caroline away and Damon tells Sheriff Forbes on the phone that Caroline is okay. They got him. Stefan's taking her home and she's like, oh, thank God. And he tells her where they are. So he's going to come there. He's about to kill him because he keeps asking him, like, who turned you? And Logan won't tell him. Just as Damon's about to kill him, he's like, no, wait. Do you think you're the only one who wants to get into the tomb? I can help you. And Damon's like, I swear to God, if you're lying to me. He's like, I'm not. And Damon's like, okay, fake a fight, make it look real. Because Sheriff Forbes is like driving up to them. Sheriff Forbes comes and Damon's like, I'm sorry. He was too strong, Sheriff. So after Stefan had dropped Caroline home safely, he goes back to the school to talk to Elena and was like, you see, this is why we can't be together. Like, look at the stuff that's happening. Elena's like, yeah, okay, well, can I at least offer you a ride home? So Jeremy goes to talk to Tyler about how weird that interaction was with his father. Do you have to deal with that all the time? Like, wow, I understand why you're like this now, like, in a nice way. Tyler's like, I don't need your pity. And then he punches Jeremy in the face, which was so uncalled for. God, they're so violent. And Jeremy's like, what's your problem, man? And then Tyler's like, I don't know. And in the background of him saying that is a full moon. Okay, so the dad said, you've just been marked. And then Tyler has anger issues and says he doesn't know why. And the cinematography shows a full moon in the background. Like, y'all, if you're not getting the drift, I don't know what else to say. I do like how they are foreshadowing stuff in season 1, pretty early in season 1, episode 10, that only comes out in season 2. I like that. So Elena and Stefan arrive at the Salvatore house and she brings up what he asked her earlier about what she wants for her future. And she says that her mom used to want her to be a writer, but she feels like she can't anymore now that her mom's dead. But the reason she brings this up is because she says to him, you think that you brought all this bad stuff into my life, but I already had it. And he says, I know it's hard to understand, but I'm doing this for you, and gets out the car. And then she gets out the car and she's like, no, you don't get to make that decision for me, which is like, true.
If you walk away, it's for you because I know what I want. Stefan, I love you.
I cry whenever I watch this scene, y'all. I can't even feel for it. And then he turns around and he's like got tears in his eyes, and Paul Wesley, whenever he cries, my heart just breaks. So he goes over to Elena and plants a big kiss on her. And while this is playing, I Am Cut by Plum is playing. You know, the one that's like, not a stranger, no, I am yours, with a crippled anger and tears that still drip sore. I used to love that song when I was younger, even though it's like pretty depressing because it's like, I am cut, pain. So they go inside to kiss some more, but his eyes start to get all veiny and he turns around because he doesn't want her to see it, and she's like,
don't hide from me.
And then he turns around and she like looks at his face and she doesn't look disgusted, scared, nothing. She looks at him like he's beautiful and she's like touching his veins and stroking them softly, and they start to go away. Oh, I do not want to be afraid. I do not want to die inside just to breathe in. I'm tired of feeling so numb. Relief exists, I find it when I am cut. Why am I getting emotional now? Like, when I was like rewatching this, I was like, ah! Like that moment always gets me. It's so beautiful because like it's really showing how she's just like accepting him for who he is, for what he is, which is what he's really wanted all along. Because like he has so much shame with being a vampire, and she's just like, Stefan, like I love you for you. Like I don't care that you're a vampire. Oh, so beautiful. And they go up to Stefan's bedroom and have passionate sex for the first time. I think the timing of this was good. So we had our first kiss in episode 2, sex in episode 10. Like it doesn't feel too rushed, which I like, but it's also not like taking forever. We then cut to that abandoned warehouse where Logan has been squatting, and he's walking outside, and then he sees Rick. Rick shows up and he's like, who are you? And he's like, I'm a friend of Jenna. You need to stay away from her. And Logan's like, you don't know who you're messing with, because his back's towards him. And Rick stakes him with a wooden stake. So clearly Rick knows about vampires. They were trying to misdirect us to make us think he was a vampire. I feel like at this point it's pretty obvious that he's like more of like a vampire hunter. He's like a vampire hunter on the side. Like it's like his side hustle. It's not his main gig. You want to see some real hunters, wait for season 4. So we're still at the high school, and with Matt and Tyler, I didn't really talk about it that much because it really doesn't matter. But in this episode, in the previous episode, Tyler was giving Matt a lot of shit about being into Caroline. Matt's pretty fed up with it, and he tells him,
look, I like Caroline. She's got this thing, this way about her, and I like her, okay? And I'm not gonna defend it or apologize about it. Okay? So stop your little bromance bitch act.
See ya! That was so funny. I love that. Honestly, Matt kind of slays. Like, I do like how he puts Tyler in his place, but at the same time, it's like, why are you still friends with them? Did I just say Matt kind of slays? Oh my god, who am I? So Elena and Stefan are cuddling in his bed, and she's like, wow, I've never been in your room before. And he says that his room is the only thing that has remained constant in his life, and it holds every memory he thought was important enough to hold on to, which I think is really sweet, but also very interesting, because when he goes and leaves the room to get Elena a glass of water, she's looking around his room, and she picks up that picture of Catherine that he had kept, and is obviously freaked out by the resemblance, because she has heard so much about Catherine, and that she's seeing a picture of her from 1864 and she looks identical to her, so she leaves. Yeah, I guess it's interesting because of what Stefan had said. Like, he said this room holds every memory that I thought was important enough to hold on to. So does that mean he's still hung up on Catherine if he's holding onto the photo? I personally don't think so. Like, I have pictures of some exes and some ex-friendships and stuff that I hold on to, but it's not that I actively look on them. I just don't want to throw them away. But then again, he has looked at them a couple times. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. So Sheriff Forbes calls Damon and thanks him for finding Logan. And he's like, what? Like, kind of confused. And she's like, this town owes you so much, like you're a hero, blah blah blah. And she hangs up, and obviously Damon is like pissed off now because he was hoping that Logan could help him open the tomb so he could free Catherine. Speaking of Catherine, Stefan goes back into his room and is like, Elena, where are you? And then he notices on the table that Elena has left her necklace behind along next to the photo of Catherine, and he's put 2 and 2 together. Also, why would he just leave the photo laying out? Maybe because he didn't realize she was going to go in his room. Yeah, that makes sense. So Elena is driving home crying, and a hooded man, almost like a black silhouette, shows up in the road all of a sudden, and she tries to swerve, but she ends up hitting him, and her car spins, and she's like laying in the car upside down. There's glass everywhere. She's crying, and she starts, you know, screaming because this hooded figure gets up and his bones start healing and contorting. He starts walking towards her, and she realizes, oh my god, he's a vampire. And that is where the mid-season finale ends. That is such a good mid-season finale. Like, Elena finally finding out about Catherine, and this cliffhanger of like Elena, car accident with the guy walking towards her. Next episode is episode 11, titled Bloodlines. Fun fact, this episode is actually the first episode I ever watched of the Vampire Diaries, because I watched the Vampire Diaries as it was airing like on TV. This would have been in like the end of 2009, beginning of 2010. But yeah, this was definitely the first one I watched, because I remember I was only like 10 years old or something, and in the scene there's like a really graphic, violent moment that like gave me nightmares. Once again, I should have not been watching this show when I was 10 years old. Anyway, let's get into it. So this episode starts right where it left off, with Elena just having crashed her car and that creepy hooded guy who's a vampire obviously walking towards her. But luckily, just as he gets to her, he runs away because Damon runs over to save Elena. Damon pulls her out of the car and is holding her and is trying to see if she's okay, and she just says to him,
I look like her.
How would you guys feel if you found out that someone who's like obviously not your twin and stuff looks identical to you? Now, how would you feel if that person dated your ex? Now, how would you feel if that person was a vampire? Now, how would you feel if that person dated your ex 150 years ago and turned them into a vampire? You know, girls got a lot to be pondering over right now. I feel like she's totally justified in her dramatics. Then we cut to Rick writing in his journal, and he is talking about having found a vampire and killed one of them, being Logan, and he's like, I was right about Mystic Falls. There is an evil here. And then the camera pans to a picture of a woman, which then cuts to a flashback of Rick with his wife. And you may think this is irrelevant, but it's not. So Elena wakes up in Damon's car, and turns out he's actually driving with her to Georgia. So they're in Virginia. I don't know American geography, but those are different states. I know that much. So she freaks out and she asks him to pull over, and he does. And she says, what are you doing, Damon? I want to go back home. This is kidnapping. Which, I don't know why I'm laughing. I guess it kind of is. But like, he did save her. And Damon says to her, you don't have your little magical necklace. I can make you very agreeable. But then her phone starts ringing, and Damon grabs it, and it turns out she doesn't want to answer it because it's Stefan. So he answers it, and Stefan's like, where is she? Where's her phone? If you hurt her, Damon. And Damon's like, she doesn't want to talk to you right now. Blah, 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 and then hangs up the phone. So Stefan, Edward Cullen, New Moon, throws his phone at the wall. Actually, no, Edward crushed his phone. They must go through a lot of phones. But Damon just convinces Elena to take this time away from home, to step out of her life and her problems, basically. And she says, fine, just promise me you won't use that little mind control thing on me. And he's like, sure. So Rick is at the car park at the high school, digging through his car, trying to find his ring. And Jeremy's telling him about his paper on the Mystic Falls Civil War based on his ancestors' journal. Cool story. So yeah, Rick has a magical ring too. Well, we don't know it's magical at this point, but it looks very similar to Damon and Stefan's ring, which once again, like another misdirect to him being a vampire, but we definitely know he's not a vampire based on what he said in his journal. But trust and believe, that ring is not any ordinary ring. If you see any giant, gawky looking ring with a symbol in it in the show, probably magical. Is it Golki or Goudy? Oh, Gouda. Gouda. Gouda's like a cheese. Goudy. Whatever. So Stefan goes and finds Bonnie at the high school, and he says he really needs her help. He wants her to do a spell to help find Elena. And he's like, it's a simple locator spell. I can help you. I've seen other witches do it. Gives her something that belongs to Elena, her necklace, so that Bonnie can do that spell. And Bonnie tries to do it, but she realizes that her magic isn't working and she can't do it. And she's like, OMG, Stefan, I'm sorry, I can't help. And she goes to leave, and he's like, oh shit. Because like, how's he gonna find Elena now? So Damon and Elena arrive at a bar, and Elena's like, they're not gonna let me in, I'm not old enough. And Damon says, chill, I know the owner. So he goes in, bartender goes up to him, who like owns the bar, Bree, and they make out. She's like, okay. And the bartender gives a toast to everyone in the bar with a bunch of shots, and she's like, here's to the man who broke my heart, crushed my soul, destroyed my life, and ruined any chances of my happiness. Cheers. So funny. Damon doesn't seem fazed at all. And then we also find out that they met in college 20 years ago, him and Bree, because yeah, she does look older than him, and she's also a witch, but not any kind of witch. Stay tuned. So Jeremy goes to the Mystic Falls library to look for more books that he could use for his history paper. A bunch of books fall on him, and then this girl pops out of nowhere to help him pick up the books, and that girl is a new character. Where are you? Here she is. Anna Zhu. So this character plays a pretty significant role, and as soon as she comes in, she's like, oh my god, I was trying to grab one book and one was lodged in the other, and then kabunk kabloom. No, but she actually says it like that.
I'm so sorry. There was this one book wedged between the other, and I pulled, and then kaplunk kaboom.
Kablunk kabloom. Like, I've never heard that word before. And then when they both go down to pick up the books, they butt heads. It's a very, like, high school meet cute cliche.
I'm Anna.
Jemmy.
So Bonnie shows up to Graham's house and is talking to her about how she is having a conundrum with not being able to use her magic. And her Graham basically says, you're blocked inside with whatever you're so afraid of. You need to go and clear it out. So Jenna calls Elena because she didn't show up home last night. And Elena basically tells her she was studying with Bonnie and fell asleep and ended up staying the night, but she'll see her later. So Damon's reason for coming to Georgia is revealed while he's talking to Bree, and it's that he needs her help to open the tomb to free Catherine. They've already tried this 20 years ago. So Damon Damon, this is not his first attempt to free Catherine from the tomb. She says 3 easy steps.
Comet, crystal, spell.
A little problem with number 2. I don't have the crystal.
There is no other way. Emily's spell is absolute. You can't get into that tomb.
We also find out that Bree is also a descendant of Emily, meaning she is also in the Bennett witch bloodline. And witch bloodlines are really important in the TVD universe. Onto our other Bennett witch. Bonnie is in the forest, where she got possessed by Emily and then attacked by Damon and all that. And she starts hearing a bunch of noises and she gets really scared. And then all of a sudden, she falls through the ground. So Elena talks to Stefan on the phone and says that she's upset that he lied to her and asks how she's connected to Catherine. And he says he honestly doesn't know, so she hangs up. Damon goes outside to check on Elena. And while this is happening in the bar, Bree, that witch, turns on the blender so that obviously Damon won't be able to hear anything with his vampiring, and tells someone on the phone, "You'll never believe you just walked into my bar." So Bonnie is stuck underground at the entrance of the tomb, which has a pentagram carved into it. So we get to see the tomb for the first time. She's looking very stony, very old, very earthy. Anyway, Stefan goes to Sheila Bennett's house to ask if he can find Bonnie. She says she doesn't know where she is, but she's facing her fears, which she senses Stefan might know where to find her. Does Grams ever leave her house? This entire show, we've not seen her leave her house. So Miss Anna is giving Jeremy a tour of the library because she's homeschooled and she goes there a lot, so she knows where everything is. And she asks what his history project is about, and he says the folklore and myths of the town. And she says, "Oh, you mean the vampires?" I don't know what that is. Guys, it's a Saturday night. Most people are out at the club and I'm talking about a TV show that came out 14 years ago. Honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way. So Elena and Damon are sitting at the bar chatting and she's asking if she could be a descendant of Catherine. Does that make her part vampire? Which, Elena, that's such a stupid question. You can't pass the vampire gene on, like you become a vampire. Damon says no, vampires can't procreate, and even if they were related, Catherine must have had a child before she was turned. Elena is wondering if Stefan was using her to replace Catherine, and Damon's like, "Oh, yeah, that's pretty weird." He's not trying to help Stefan's situation at all. And she notices that Damon's like eating a burger, and she's like, "If you're dead, like, how do you..." And he says that as long as he keeps a healthy diet of blood in his system, his body functions pretty normally. So yeah, I'm assuming that the way that these vampires work is that they don't produce their own blood. So the body functions pretty much like a human's in some ways, like the digestive system or whatnot, but they don't have their own blood. They need to drink other blood so they can have blood running through their body since they're dead and they can't create it. The biology of a vampire confuses me and I need to stop trying to figure it out. So back at the Mystic Falls Library, Jeremy and Anna are kind of going back and forth about whether or not they believe in vampires. She very much does, and Jeremy is just like, no, they're just an allegory used for Union sympathizers in fiction around the Civil War. What 15-year-old knows all of that? And she shares that her grandfather used to show her all of these old journals about vampires where the author seemed pretty convinced. So Bonnie is trapped underground and she has no cell signal and decides to put her ear up against the tomb door, and she hears like whispering and murmuring. Goes back because she gets a fright, and then she feels someone behind her and screams, but it's Stefan who had jumped down there to save her. "Oh, we love you, Stefan." And then he says, "I'll get you out of here, Bonnie." And she says, "How?" And he says, "Close your eyes." He like jumps out of the tomb, basically flying. But I guess that's more just like the strength that he pushed on his feet was it's just like a forceful jump. Stop trying to understand the logic. There is no logic. It's supernatural. But yeah, I think it's nice how Stefan's like taking care of Bonnie and trying to help her out and stuff. I mean, one could argue it's just for Elena, but I don't think that. I think he is just a good person at heart. And Bonnie expresses her concerns about the tomb vampires to Stefan, and he says, well, don't worry, they can't get out now that Emily destroyed the crystal. So Anna and Jeremy have moved their fun over to the Mystic Girl, and they're playing pool, talking about their ancestors and vampires some more. And she's like, you know, we should have a Fright night where we just watch a bunch of vampire movies. But Jeremy says he doesn't really want him to get the wrong idea because he just got out of something quite serious and it's a little too soon. And she's like, okay, I just met as friends, and then just leaves and says it was nice meeting you. Honestly, it's kind of crazy that they met that morning and then spent the whole day together all the way into the night. Like, does that ever happen with someone you just meet? Definitely not to me. So yeah, like I said, it's nighttime, and Elena and Georgia at the bar gets a call from Jenna wondering where she is, but Elena can't hear her probably because the bar is so loud. So she goes outside to get some quiet, but she trips and falls, and when she goes to pick up her phone, someone grabs her. She gets grabbed a lot. Don't grab me! Modern Family's really integrated into my brain. There wasn't a dry eye in the goddamn. So Bree's like to Damon at the bar, where's your girl? So he goes outside to look for her. And when he starts walking around, he goes to this car park. Why does everything always happen in a car park? And he sees Elena and she's like, Damon, no! And then this guy comes up to Damon with a baseball bat, a steel one, and starts like hitting him. Pretty cool scene. Then Elena's like asking him to stop and the guy turns around and like shows his fangs in his eyes, so he's obviously a vampire. And he starts pouring gasoline over Damon with the intention obviously to light him on fire. And Elena's trying to stall him, asking who he is, why are you doing this? And he reveals to them that Damon killed his girlfriend. And Elena's like, who? And then they realize, oh, Lexi. This is Lexi's boyfriend. Elena's like, oh, but she said you were human. And he said, I was. If you want to love someone forever, you gotta live forever. Something to that effect. I don't know, it's pretty cute. But yeah, he wants revenge for Damon killing Lexi by killing him. But Elena's like, no, stop, like Lexi was good. Like that means you're good too, don't do this, blah, blah, blah. And he ends up just like going along with what Elena says, like realizing like, oh, well, Lexi wouldn't want this, I should be a good person. And then like just like throws Damon into the wall and runs away and says, I'm not doing this for you, I'm doing this for her, meaning Lexi. Honestly, for me personally, I would say eye for an eye. You kill my boyfriend or my girlfriend, I kill you if I was a vampire. Okay, I don't condone murder in real life. You say that to me and I kill you.
You do that to me and I kill you.
That's another Modern Family reference. So Stefan brings Bonnie home to her Grams. Bonnie goes inside and these two have a bit of a private moment together, and it's really cute because Stefan actually knew Sheila like back in the day when she was like younger and stuff. And I don't know if it was necessarily romantic, but Sheila, something was there. And I really like this idea of like being able to see a much older witch or human or whatever interact with a younger vampire, but them having known them in the past, it really puts into perspective how old they are. Because the flashbacks do that too, but also seeing like the difference is cool too. And she also realizes after speaking to Stefan that Bonnie knows about the vampires and stuff, and she says that their loyalty to them can only extend so far. They've had this long-standing loyalty due to Emily and Damon's deal. In a nutshell, she's saying like, yeah, if something goes wrong, I'll try to help you, but I'm putting me and Bonnie first. If anything else happens, the rest of you can go kablunk kabloom. Thanks, Anna, for that quote. So Damon goes inside to talk to Bree, and she's really upset because she obviously thought he would have been dead. And she's like, Lexi was my friend, how could you do this? And then he speeds up to her and she freaks out, and in a last-ditch effort to, you know, save herself, says, I know how to get into the tomb, Damon. But he doesn't trust her or believe her and pulls out her heart from her chest cavity, and then she dies. That was such a graphic scene for me to watch in my first episode of Vampire Diaries as a 10-year-old. Also, I think this is the first heart rip of the show, so get used to them. They happen pretty often. But yeah, the thought of just like someone sticking their hand into you and pulling out your heart, like that's just terrifying to me. Anyway, after this, Damon and Elena are driving home, and she asks why he brought her, and he says, oh, well, you were all damsel in the distress, and I was already on my way there. Besides, you're not the worst company in the world. And one thing I really noticed about this episode is Elena's cheeky grin that she has sometimes towards Damon. It's very different to the affectionate smile she has with Stefan that seems a lot more smitten. She definitely recognizes his bad boy vibe. And she's being all chummy towards him because she saved his life, and she's like, don't you forget it. Even though, like, I mean, he saved hers in the beginning of the episode. But I guess it's more, like, impressive that she saved his life because she did it with her words and her emotion, and she's human, so she doesn't have that vampire strength or powers. And they're back from their road trip in Georgia, and Elena is going up to Stefan to confront him, and she says, you promised me no lies, and this lie was too much. I can handle the truth, Stefan. And she asks him,
what am I to you?
You are not Catherine. You are the opposite of everything that she was.
And when did you figure that out? Before you kissed me? Before we slept together?
And he said, before we met. And she's like, what? And Stefan goes into a little bit of a backstory, and he tells her that the day that they met at school was not the first time they met. Obviously, she's confusion and says when, and he says a date, and she's like, wait, but that was, and he says the day that your parents' car drove off of Wickery Bridge.
You were there?
He tells her that he comes back to Mystic Falls every couple of years to check on Zach and to visit his home. And that day, he was out in the forest, most likely hunting, and he heard the crash. And he ran there, but he didn't get there in time. So by the time he got there, the car was already submerged. And when he went underwater to try and save them, Dad was pointing to Elena, insisting that he save her first.
Oh my God.
Obviously, he was surprised to see what she looked like and confused, but he took her up and saved her. And when he went back into the water to try and save her parents, it was too late. Elena's like getting really emotional at this point.
When I woke up in the hospital, nobody could figure out how I got out of the car. They said it was a miracle.
And Stefan is that miracle. He saved her life. Whoa. What was that sound? When the car accident happened, Elena had passed out, so she didn't actually see Stefan. Once Stefan had called the ambulance, he left, and he said he spent the next couple months watching Elena, following her, observing her, trying to make sure she wasn't Catherine. Okay, so you were stalking her. It's okay, guys. At this point, I feel like we've all needed to accept that vampires stalk humans. That's just part of their nature. So I'm gonna move past it, but if this was like a non-supernatural situation, I would be thoroughly creeped out. He says he was going to leave town, but he felt like he needed to know Elena, which takes us back to the pilot episode.
I shouldn't have come home. I know the risk, but I had no choice. I have to know her.
This was the reason he had to know her. And Elena asks why she looks like Catherine. And he's like, it didn't make sense. You were a Gilbert, Catherine was a Pierce. And then I looked into it and...
You were adopted.
Boom! Imagine someone telling you that. She's obviously shooketh to the core, but we can't see her reaction just yet because we're cutting to Jeremy in the library and Anna finds him there again and gives him a bunch of article cutouts from various periods of time showing him all of these animal attacks that have been happening in Mystic Falls and how it's strange because all of the bodies have neck bites, drained of blood like vampires, and Mystic Falls has the highest rate of this. So, interesting that she's so curious about this. So back at the Salvatore house, Stefan tells Elena that there was no record of her mother, Miranda Gilbert, being admitted into the hospital to give birth to Elena, the hospital that is cited on her birth certificate, and there's no record of her ever being pregnant, like no appointments or anything. And he says, you know, even though your parents on your birth certificate, your father was a doctor, so he could forge the birth certificate pretty easily. And Elena's obviously just trying to take all of this in and asks if there's anything else that he knows, and Stefan says that he stopped searching beyond that because he would have had to look into Catherine's background, and it's too dangerous to go down that road because people will start asking questions. So what is it about Catherine that is dangerous to look into? She's been in a tomb for 150 years. Guess we'll see. It is interesting though, because Stefan tells Elena while she's crying, you know, it doesn't matter, you're the woman I love, and then they kiss. It's a bit of a strange thing to say because obviously he's not gonna feel differently about her based on who her parents are or whatever, but like, it does matter to her. Like, she lived her whole life thinking that these were her biological parents. That being said, like, they're still her parents. They may not have like biologically made her, but they are the ones that raised her. But let's not minimize that. So Elena goes home and Jenna starts lecturing her about where she was and all this kind of stuff because she just disappeared for a couple of days to Georgia. And she's like, you know what, Elena, I thought we had a better relationship than this. I can't believe you lied to me. And Elena's like, you do not want to talk to me about lies. When were you going to tell me that I was adopted? And then Jenna just looks blank stare, like she can't say anything. And Elena's like, yeah, so don't preach to me about honesty. And then she just walks upstairs and Jenna's like, I'm sorry, they asked me not to. And she's like, I don't want to hear it. So the beef is beefing. We got some more beef cooking up here. We got a beef stew. I need to shut up about that. So Rick's over at the Mystic Grill having a drink, looking across the bar over at Damon, and we get a flashback of Rick, like we had in the opening scene of this episode, coming home to his apartment and finding his wife being drunken alive by Damon. Boom, end of the episode. So now we know that Rick has got some beef with Damon. So we'll see what happens there. I really like that episode with Damon and Elena going to Georgia. I feel like this is kind of the start of their like friendship. It's very much tumultuous, but what relationship in this show isn't? So yeah, this was really nice to kind of see them together getting along. Anyway, on to episode 12, Unpleasantville. Elena and Stefan are laying in her bed discussing that stranger in the road with the hoodie, wondering who he is. They still don't know, and Stefan says, okay, well, if there's a strange vampire running around that we don't know, we need to make sure everyone's protected. So he gives her a box of like vervain. He says you can put it in your tea, your coffee, you can wear it, and he has a couple jewelry items that Elena can give to, you know, like Caroline and Jeremy and Jenna and stuff, so that they will be protected from compulsion. Which, why weren't they doing that all along? Like, they should have already been doing that, because look what Miss Caroline has been going through this whole time. Downstairs, the doorbell rings, and Jeremy answers it, and it is a pizza delivery guy. He yells up to Elena for the money and says to the guy, oh, you can come in, just put it on the table. Why would he do that? Because why does your pizza man need to come into your house? You can't just grab the pizza from him? Interesting. Anyway, I digress. Elena comes downstairs and gives him the money. And he's like, okay, well, thank you. Have a good night. She's like, you too. And then he leaves and puts his hoodie up. So now we know that that pizza delivery guy was the guy in the hoodie who stood in the road. So Elena got in a car accident and he's obviously trying to hunt her down. Okay, this is our guy. Although he's not recognizable. We haven't seen him before in the show. Over at the Salvatore house, Stefan shares his dismay with Damon about him taking Elena to Georgia Georgia and asks him what he found from Bree, but Damon doesn't want to share and it just starts rummaging through books in the library. He's clearly looking for something. He is a man on a mission. At the high school, Jeremy gets his paper back from Rick and he gets a really good grade, and Rick double checks with Jeremy like, you do know vampires aren't real, right? And he's like, yeah, no, I don't believe in that. And he's like, yeah, but that journal that you cited from your ancestor, I'd love to read that.
First person account of the Civil War, that's like porn for a history teacher.
Okay, why do we always have to refer to everything we like as porn? It's a bit weird. And he said, oh yeah, man, I'll lend it to you. So that's where the journal's going now, because like the necklace having all of its back and forth nonsense and the compass, now we got to keep track of this journal. Guys, there is a lot to keep track of. People are like passing things around, stealing stuff from each other. So just to note, Alark is the one who has this journal right now. Jonathan Gilbert's journal from 1864. Also at the high school, Elena gives Caroline a vervain necklace just as like a friend gift. Obviously, Caroline does not know it's vervain because even though she's being compelled by a vampire, when she's not under compulsion, she doesn't know that they're real.
What's the occasion? No occasion, just a little friend gift. A lesbian friend necklace. Sort of freaky like that.
Okay, ladies, is it gay to give your friends gifts? And they start talking about Caroline getting involved with Matt, and Elena tells her that whatever is happening between the two of them is totally fine with her. And Caroline starts talking about how not much is happening, and it's like blah, blah, blah. She's like, oh, you know what, this is probably a bit weird for me to talk to you about, because obviously Elena and Matt used to date. And she's like, yeah, it's a little weird, but if it's what you and Matt want, then this isn't about me. And Caroline's like, well, yeah, it is, because Matt's not over you and everybody knows it. And she's like, well, Matt knows I'm with Stefan now, so he knows he needs to move on. But Caroline clearly is having a point of contention with the fact that Matt isn't fully over Elena. So this is going to come up some more. At the Mystic Grill, Matt catches up with a bartender who is somebody that graduated from Mystic Falls High, and Matt is now applying for a job to work as a busboy at the grill because obviously, you know, Vicky's disappeared, his mom's out of the picture. I guess he's got to get money somehow considering Vicky was the one bringing in the income. And this new character he is talking to is over here. His name is Ben. His last name doesn't matter. Also at the grill, Elena is sitting with Bonnie and she shares her adoption with her, and Bonnie's like, I can't believe Jenna didn't tell you. You know, you really should ask her some questions about it. But Elena's really reluctant to do so, and Bonnie's like, you just found out your boyfriend is a vampire. Unless your birth parents are aliens, how bad could it be? Bonnie, I love you, but you really need to stop doing this, like, how bad could it be? How much worse could it get type of thing? Because it keeps getting worse whenever you say that. Elena leaves to go shopping for her dress. Later this episode, it's our first episode with the school dance. It's a 50s themed dance, so that's kind of fun. And then when Bonnie's about to get up and leave, she gets bumped into by Damon. He's always up in her grill lately. And she's like, what do you want? I just want a fresh start. And she's like, you tried to kill me. And he's like, but I didn't, and I could have. Doesn't that count for something?
You know I can start fires with my mind. Fires kill vampires, right?
And then Ben shows up and he's like, oh, you got a problem, mate? Like, what's going on? Leave her alone. And then Damon's like, ugh, and then just like leaves. And Bonnie's like, oh, thanks. And he's like, no problem, Bonnie. And she's like, OMG, like, you remember me?
I always know a pretty face.
Like he graduated it already like a while ago, and he was like a popular football player. So later that night, Elena is leaving the store with her dress, and she gets a call from this mystery guy, and he's like, I'm the guy you hit with your car. Is that a new one? She's like, starts freaking out, trying to get in her car so she can leave. And he said, you got away last time. Next time you won't. Even though she speeds off, so I guess she does get away. By the way, this mystery guy, his name is Noah. The next day, Elena asks Stefan, why doesn't this guy just kill her already? Why is he like calling her and following her? And Stefan gives the whole classic vampire speech like, we're predators. We hunt and stalk. It's often as exciting as the kill. I feel like Edward has said something like that before. Oh yeah, he said that about James, didn't he? So then Stefan gives Elena the vampire compass that Gilbert watched so she can use it to see if there's like a vampire near her. Remember that one? And she asked him why her father had it, and he said the Gilberts were among the founding families of 1864 who sought to eradicate the vampires in their town, and these compasses were used to find them. Fun fact. Cool. And the whole point of giving Elena this is so she can know if there's a vampire near her and all this kind of stuff, but like, even if she knows there's a vampire near her, how is she supposed to protect herself? Bar going into a private residence where the vampire can't get in. I mean, this vampire can already come into her home since he's been invited in, but I don't think they know that yet. At this point, I'm just wondering, what is she to do? Like, she's human, they're vampires, how can she fight back? I digress. So Caroline and Matt, oh my god, I'm really gonna regret having them this far apart, but to be fair, they didn't really have many interactions before. The two of them are painting some props for the school dance, and she is trying to gauge the vibe, like if he's gonna go with her and stuff, and he says he can't go because he's working that night at the grill, and she's like, oh, since when were you a busboy? And he's like, you know, some of us have to work, Caroline. Okay. And she's like, I didn't you know, I didn't know that. Like, I didn't know you worked there. Like, he was getting really offended off the gate. But I feel like it would be difficult for Matt considering all of his friends are well off and he's like really financially struggling. And I really do relate to that because that was kind of my vibe in high school. My family was, there's no better way to say it, broke. So I vibe with what he's saying. I was like one of the first people to get a job and always having to like not be able to do things because I had to work and not being able to go to different things because I didn't have enough money. So I understand why he's a bit salty. So Jeremy's at the girl playing pool and Anna shows up. Does she just like follow him at this point? Like walk around to different places to see where he is? Like she's pretty clingy at this point. She also the paper went and if he wants to hang out later and he says he can't because he's on punch duty for the dance and she's like, how'd you get roped into that? And he says, oh, you know, I'm failing algebra. I don't understand the American schooling system. Correct me if I'm wrong because I am aware this is a TV show, but how does filling drinks from a punch bowl at a dance get you extra credit for your algebra class? If 5 + 5 is 10, then what the hell is this? After that she then says, well, what about tomorrow? What about the next day? Like she's being a bit full on.
I'm being pushy again, aren't I?
Well, thanks for the help. I'll see you around.
Over at the Gilbert house, Jenna is getting ready to leave. She's all costumed up to go to the dance to help Rick chaperone, which I think is cute. I honestly love this pairing. So Elena is like asking her more about the adoption and stuff. So basically Elena's dad was a doctor and he was working late one night. He was just about to leave when a pregnant 16-year-old runaway shows up in labor. So he delivers her baby and he gives her a place to stay because remember she was a runaway. But then she just leaves and leaves the baby behind, and that baby was Elena. And Elena's parents were trying to have a baby for a while, but they weren't really having much luck. So they decided to keep her. Okay. And they were so scared of anyone taking Elena away from them, they barely told anyone. And he forged her birth certificate so it looked like she was their biological daughter. Yo, this is messy. The mess is, it's a lot here. Like he could lose his license over this. I mean, I guess it doesn't matter now because he's dead. Oh.
What else do you know about her? Just her name. Isabel.
Now Isabel is a character that we will meet, but only in the next video. So you're gonna have to stay tuned. I'm sorry guys, gotta let the suspense build. So over at the Salvador house, Stefan gives Damon their father's journal because remember, everybody back in the day was keeping journals in this town. And he's like, this is what you've been looking for, right? I've read it, there's no mention of Catherine or the tomb, but I could help you get Catherine back if you leave town and all the other tomb vampires are not released. And Damon seems sus about trusting Stefan, which if anything, he should be the one not trusting him.
Why would I trust you?
See, that's your problem, Damon. You apply all of your shortcomings to everybody else. If history is any indication, there's only one liar among us.
You know, Stefan's having a bit of a moral high ground here, but it's not gonna last long. So Elena's getting ready for the dance, and while she's doing this, she's like in the bathroom getting ready. The magical compass thing is like sitting on her bed, starts spinning in different directions, so it's pretty obvious there's a vampire in her house. And when she goes out of the bathroom into their room and she sees the compass, she quickly calls Stefan and he doesn't answer, and Damon does, and she says, where's Stefan? And he says he left his phone here, but he's on his way to you. And she says, oh, thank God, that must be why this thing is spinning. Stefan must be here, thanks. She hangs up the phone, but we see in the camera behind her, Noah, the hoodie vamp, is up on the ceiling like a freaking spider. Honestly, that was cool. Props to him. After she gets off the phone, he jumps down and tries to bite her neck. But Stefan stops him. And he literally sounds so pissed off. He goes like he grunts and runs away. Oh, he's like funny. Like justice for the pizza delivery guy vamp. What do we want to call him? Pizza delivery vamp? Hoodie vamp? Car crash vamp? Noah? I feel like I like Hoodie Vamp. Henceforth his name is Hoodie Vamp because he always wears a black hoodie. So Damon arrives to the premises and they're all talking about like, oh my God, this guy's been invited in. He poses as a pizza delivery guy. And they start suspecting that there could be more vampires out there in the town that they're unaware of. And they agree that they need to kill him tonight. And Elena's like, oh, really? And they're like, Elena, he's been invited in. And she's like, okay, well, what should we do? And then they agree to still go to the dance, kind of to like lure him there, and then they're gonna kill him there. Now, I'm seeing a couple flaws in this plan. The school is gonna be filled with students and teachers and chaperones at the dance, and you're luring this vampire there. I guess we don't care about the safety of the NPCs. So they all arrive at the dance, and Rick gives Damon a dirty look, because remember, he caught him drinking his wife's blood back in the day. And Elena goes over to Bonnie and Caroline, and they ask, like, what is Damon doing here? Caroline's like, what, are you guys like a 3 threesome now. It's honestly crazy to me how anyone can just walk into this dance. Who knows, maybe he compelled his way through. So Jenna and Rick are kind of talking a little bit about the mystery of his dead wife and how it kind of keeps him up at night, but there's not really any new information that's revealed quite yet. And then Damon goes to ask Bonnie if she wants to dance, which is kind of ridiculous. Like, why would she say yes? And Caroline just tells him to back off, and then they go and leave. And then he asks Elena, would you like to dance? And she says, I would love to. And he smiles, but then she grabs Stefan and goes and dances with him. I'm so lonely. I'm Mr. Lonely. I'm all on my own. Ooh. Poor Damon, but when will you learn that your actions have consequences? I can't do that voice. You guys know the vine. Don't worry guys, I do love Damon. But season 1 Damon kind of sucks most of the time. So Jeremy's at the dance serving his punch and Anna shows up. Honestly, she's a stalker at this point. And he's like, what are you doing here? And she's like, oh, since you neglected to invite me. And he's like, wow, you're doing that thing again where you pretend that we're dating even though we're not. And she's like, what, you mean stalking? Okay, so you are self-aware. Okay, good to know. And she's like, get over yourself, Jeremy. I just wanted to come because I've never been to a school dance before. Yeah, maybe because you're homeschooled and you never been to school. That's kind of how it works, love. Over at the Mystic Grill, Matt is bussing tables, and Bonnie and Caroline arrive, and Mr. Ben is there attending the bar, and Bonnie's kind of got the hots for him, and Caroline's like, oh my god, Bonnie, he's a washed up jock who serves drinks for a living. You could do so much better. And guess who was standing behind them and heard this whole conversation? But Matt. And he walks straight past them and Caroline's like, oh my god, hey. And he's like, hey. So he's obviously pissed. Like, Caroline, some of us have to get jobs that we're not necessarily fond of or proud of. Back at the dance, Rick goes and introduces himself to Damon. And he's like, oh, I'm the history teacher chaperoning. Who are you here with? And he says, yeah, I'm chaperoning too, here for Stefan, my younger brother. I'm his legal guardian. Ha! Okay. Well, I guess that is their cover up since they don't have parents. And Rick starts asking Damon a bunch of questions like, oh, how long have you been here? When did you move here? Blah, blah. And Damon gives him a look. So Rick's like, okay, I'm sorry, I'm being nosy. And then he just leaves. And Damon seems a bit sussed out, but doesn't think too much of it. So Caroline's moping at the grill to Bonnie over Matt because he won't talk to her. I wonder why. And Bonnie was looking at Ben this whole time. So she goes up to him and she tells him that she is proving a point to her friend that you don't have to sit around and wait for a guy to come talk to you. Yes, Bonnie, we love the confidence. But at the same time, like, why are these girls wanting Matt and Ben to go and talk to them when they're literally working? Like, what's not clicking? I guess it's the naivete of the jobless. So he starts flirting with Bonnie and asks her out on a date, which she's pretty happy with. And then Caroline goes and confronts Matt and asks him, like, what his deal is, why he's avoiding her and stuff. And he says, I'm not avoiding you, Caroline. I'm just working. I've got tables to clean. That's the kind of thing washed up jocks do for a living. Oof. Honestly, I'm on Matt's side with this fight. Caroline's been really nasty about this, even though she probably doesn't even realize it. That's the tough thing about her. I don't think she's malicious. She just doesn't realize how the words coming out of her mouth sound. Back at the dance, Anna is helping Jeremy with the punch duty and asks if she can borrow his ancestors' journal. And he says, oh, he can't. He lended it to his history teacher. And she's like, you shouldn't just be giving that out to anyone. And he said, but I should give it out to you. And she's like, no, just loan it to me. Where is it? Maybe it's in his classroom. Maybe we can go get it. Honestly, Anna, you need to calm down. 2 scoops of crazy with a side of cuckoo-cuckoo. If you know where that's from, I love you.
2 scoops of crazy with a side of cuckoo-cuckoo.
She's being really intense, and he's like, what's the big deal with the stupid journal? And she gets really mad, and her eyes start to go veiny and red. So, yeah, if it wasn't obvious by her strange behavior, Anna is in fact a vampire. So Jeremy's like, oh my god, Anna, your eyes. And she just turns around and she's like, oh, there's something in it. I have to go. And she leaves. Yeah, you guys already know how I feel about that excuse. So Anna's walking down the hallways of the high school and bumps into Noah, and they're talking, so they know each other. And he asks her what she's doing there, and she says, I'm trying to get the journal, you know, sticking to the plan, something that you aren't doing. Leave that girl alone.
I like her. She looks like Catherine.
She's not Catherine. Okay, Catherine is in the tomb.
I know, but until we open that tomb, I got her to play with.
Don't be stupid. That girl is with the Salvatore brothers.
They don't scare me. They never have.
So, clearly these two know Damon and Stefan and Catherine. So it's all linking back to 1864 Mystic Falls. So back in the main hall, Elena and Stefan stop dancing because they see Hoodie Vamp, and Stefan goes to follow him. But when he goes there and pins this guy against the locker and takes off his hoodie, he realizes that it's not actually him. It's just another guy wearing his hoodie. And the guy's like, this guy just told me to wear his hoodie. So it was a misdirect because Elena still in the hall, and she gets a phone call from the real hoodie vamp, Noah, who tells her she has 5 seconds to go outside alone and not tell anyone, otherwise he'll snap Jeremy's neck, and he's like standing right near Jeremy. So she obviously does what he says because she doesn't want to put Jeremy's life at risk. And then she's running in the hallways and he's following her, and she's trying to open a bunch of doors to get out, but all of them are locked, and she ends up going into the cafeteria where she grabs a couple pencils, and he's like pushing her around and puts her up against the wall and is about to bite her, and she starts shoving pencils inside of him into like his hand, his torso, his arm. Honestly, Elena's fighting back really well. Like, good on you, girl. Like, she's really good.
She's really good.
And then while he's like keeling over trying to get the pencils out of him, she grabs a mop and breaks it in half to try and stake him with it, but he knocks it out of her hand and then like knocks her over. And then just in time before he's about to bite her again, Stefan and Damon arrive, and they're holding him down, and Stefan sticks a stake in his torso, not his heart, so he's still alive. They're like kind of torturing him a bit, and they start asking him, why are you doing this? And he says, she looks like Catherine. Like, he's so obsessed with Catherine. And Damon's like, how can we get into the tomb? And he's not answering them. So Stefan pushes the stake deeper into him, and he says, the grimoire, you need the grimoire. And they're like, where is it? And he doesn't really have any answers. You know, there's not much he can say. So Stefan ends up just killing him. And Anna was over in the hallway looking through the glass door. They hadn't seen her, so she was able to see this entire thing happen, and she just speeds away and leaves. And you know who else was in the hallway? Mr. Alaric Saltzman. So he's walking around, and Stefan tells Damon to go and deal with him. So Damon speeds into the hallway and compels Rick, you know, what were you doing here? Do you know who we are? And he gives him all of the right answers. So Damon tells him to forget everything that happened and goes back into the cafeteria where all of this fight happened. And then we see that Rick was actually holding Vervain in his hand. So obviously that means that Damon was not actually able to compel him, and he's still kind of like under the radar. So Damon and Stefan are talking about how this guy was obviously working with someone. Oh my god, I completely forgot. We need to put an X on him because he's dead. Oh, we need to put an X on Logan too. Guys, I'm sorry. I'm like a little bit behind here. How awful of me. Well, goodbye, Noah. That was pretty short-lived. He like lived 2 episodes. I'm not even sure if he deserved to be on this wall. And Damon and Stefan kind of call a truce, and he agrees to let Stefan help him find Catherine, and then he'll leave town. Over at the Girl, Caroline tries to apologize to Matt, although it's pretty obvious she doesn't even realize what she's apologizing for. And she says, I know I say stupid things and I'm working on it. And Matt tells Caroline that this thing that they have between each other is the only great thing he has right now, and he's not entirely sure if he's over Elena yet, and he doesn't want to mess this up if they go further. And Caroline gets really upset by that and is like, you know, Matt, you chose to play this out in your head and come to this decision without even speaking to me about it. So this really great thing that we have, don't worry about losing it because it's already gone. Oh, how did it turn around as to her getting mad at him? I mean, I guess I understand she's still really upset about how he's just so hung up on Elena. And honestly, to be fair, like, what the hell, Matt? Like, you've just started dating Caroline and you keep bringing up Elena to her and like, you're not over her. Like, how do you think she's gonna react to that? God, he's such an idiot sometimes. Most of the time, really. So Rick walks Jenna home after the dance, and she's like, you know, it's okay if you want to talk about your wife, I don't mind. And he says, yeah, I appreciate it, but I think I'll keep the Isabel talk to a minimum. And she's like, Isabel? And he's like, yeah, that was her name. And she's like, where was Isabel from? And he said, not too far from here. Okay, so Elena's birth mother's name is Isabel, and Rick's ex-wife name is Isabel. Is that a coincidence? Guess we'll find out. But like, not for another couple episodes. So Caroline's walking home, and Matt's driving in his car and stops and gets out of his car, and he's like, Caroline, and then kisses her, and then after that says, this will never work. How romantic? Like, how is this supposed to make the situation better? Back at the Gilbert house, Elena's telling Stefan that she feels really exhilarated. You know, she fought back tonight. It felt good. Oh, that's cute. You'll probably get sick of fighting back pretty soon though, Elena. And Stefan tells Elena about his agreement with Damon to help him open the tomb and get Catherine, but it's a lie. He's not actually going to do it. He just had to get Damon to trust him. Okay, so what about that big lecture of you talking about how Damon's a liar in the beginning of the episode, and now you've just lied to him? She's like, okay, well, I trust you, I support you. Why were you worried about what I think? And he says, you know, it's just you and Damon have gotten a lot closer recently, and he can be very persuasive. And she says it's going to take a lot more than a road trip and a rescue to trust him and forget everything he's done. Okay, fair point, but like, he did save your life. Yeah, Stefan has a fake team up with Damon, but really Stefan's teamed up with Lena, and they both are lying to Damon. It's really messed up. Like, I get it, but like, at the same time, I don't really know what their plan was. Like, the only way he said he would leave town is if he got Catherine out of the tomb. So what is their plan? Are they planning to destroy the tomb? Like, who really knows? Because we don't find out what their original plan was. Anyway, the episode ends off with Ben locking up the girl and leaving to go home, but he is getting stalked and followed by Anna, and she goes to try and bite him, but he pins her back and does the whole with his veins and fangs. So yeah, Ben's a vampire as well. And then she tells him how Noah got killed, but you know what, he's an idiot. He was too obsessed with Catherine. And she asks him, how's the witch going? And he says, she's totally crushing on me. And then these two make out. So yeah, that was part of the plan. This whole interaction with Bonnie and Ben, it's all connected, guys. But anyway, that is the end of that episode. I really liked that episode. Like, I liked Hoodie Vamp, Pizza Vamp. I thought he was like a really cute little mini villain for the episode. He was quite fun. I liked his style. And obviously it's interesting to learn more about the background of Elena's true lineage. But moving on to episode 13. Hey guys, so it's like 2 days later now. Ditching the leather jacket today. I already tried wearing it when I was starting this video, and it's either we keep the continuity of the leather jacket or I have a sweaty forehead and frizzy hair. I suppose it doesn't really matter now because it kind of looks like I got those two anyway. But we're gonna get into the last 2 episodes of this chapter. But before we do, while I was away, I updated the mind map a little bit. I just went ahead and add a red string for Jeremy and Anna, and then Anna and Ben to represent the romantic interactions they're having with her. And then I also went ahead and added one for Matt and Caroline because they're having a romantic situation at the moment. I didn't add one for Jenna and Alaric because I don't feel like they're quite there yet. Yeah, that's the updates basically. Without further ado, let's just get into episode 13, Children of the Damned. So this is our first flashback of this chapter. They do one flashback episode per chapter this season, I think. So that's pretty fun. It's not like overkill. Because I have an issue when there's too many flashbacks in shows. I like it, but if it's done too much, I feel like it ruins the pacing. That's why I struggled to get into Lost, that TV show, because there's just too many flashbacks every episode. But I like the way the Vampire Diaries sets it up. So we start off back in 1864 with Catherine, yay, a Mr. Queen. So a horse-drawn carriage is approaching her and she runs up to them and asks for help. She says, please, my husband, he's been injured. And her fake husband is Damon. So one of the men in the horse-drawn carriage goes to check on Damon while the other one stays behind and says, you shouldn't be out this late, it's not safe. And she says, you're right, sir, it's not. And then she bites him and drinks his blood. And then the other guy hears what's happening at the horse carriage and he turns around to look, but then Catherine drinks his blood and Damon gets up because he was part of this little setup with her. And he asks her what they're going to do with the bodies and she says, we'll just put them in the forest where the other animals can finish them off. So I just want to focus in on that word she uses, the other animals. So does she consider herself an animal? Interesting. I guess she kind of is in some way. Like the vampires are hunting human. In some ways they're at the top of the food chain.
Are you sure you're ready for this?
I'm ready. I want you to turn me.
When it's time.
Then she wants to go ahead and kiss Damon. He goes to wipe the blood off of her mouth with his handkerchief. And she says, no, just get a taste of it. Soon you won't be able to get enough. So he kisses her with human blood on her mouth. Kind of gross. I've never tasted anybody else's blood before because that's weird. But obviously there's been the odd occasion where I've tasted mine. Not like a lot. I'm not like weirdly drinking my own blood. When I was a kid, I thought that if you bled, you should drink it so the blood goes back into your body. Don't worry, I wasn't doing that for very long. I found out very quickly that that's not the case. But the moral of the story is blood tastes disgusting. It's like metallic-y and like if you've ever got a sore in your mouth. Anyway, but clearly Damon is so infatuated with Catherine and her vampiric ways, he does it anyway. I just want to side note that I really love these flashbacks because it's so interesting getting to see what Damon and Stefan were like when they were human. Damon is so wildly different as a vampire. Like when he was a human, but he definitely wasn't as confident or cocky as he is as a vampire. And Stefan is so like prim and proper, but I feel like that still comes through to how he is now. But Damon is wildly different. It's very interesting to see. Anyway, we cut to present day and Elena and Stefan are cuddling under the covers in Stefan's room, naked. But then Damon is sitting on the edge of Stefan's bed and Stefan and Elena are like, whoa, get out of here. And Damon's like, oh, please, if there's something I haven't seen before, I'll throw $1 at it. Which obviously, like, do you think, yeah, I mean, if Catherine and Elena are identical, that means everything's identical. So Damon's basically seen Elena naked, but I digress. So anyway, he says they have a lot to do because they are now all on the same team. Ego, get Catherine out of the tomb so Damon can leave town. They are obviously, if you remember from the previous episode, lying to him. They don't actually want to help him. They just want him to think they do. So Damon leaves and Elena and Stefan go back to fooling around, which then transitions back into a flashback.
What are you doing? Stop it.
Make me.
But they get interrupted by Emily, remember Bonnie Bennett's ancestor. So Emily tells Catherine that Miss Pearl is here to see her, and she goes right down, and we meet a new character, Pearl Zhu, who, as you can see by my blue related line, is Anna Zhu's mother. I'm so happy we're uncovering all the question marks. Just gonna have to stay tuned for the next video for these two. So Catherine tells Emily to tell Mr. Salvatore that she stepped out, and Emily says, which one? She says both. Okay. Imagine how scandalous this would have been back in the 1800s. So Catherine's walking with Pearl, who's expressing to her concerns with her fooling around with both Salvatore brothers and how that could draw attention to her. And she's like, oh please, as far as anyone knows, I'm just some poor orphan girl whose family died in a fire. And so that is Catherine's like cover story. But when we actually learn Catherine's backstory in season 2, it's a lot more depressing than that. So Pearl shows Catherine an elixir, which Catherine pours on her hand, and it burns her, ergo Vervain. So they're both concerned about how the town now knows about Vervain, ergo they know about the vampires. We also see Anna in this flashback scene, you know, proving that that's her daughter and also that Anna is from this time period. Cut to present day, and Anna is sitting in a motel room leaving a voicemail to Jeremy. She's also with Ben, who's a night walker, so he's stuck in the motel for the day. And their current master plan is that Ben needs to focus on Bonnie and getting her to like trust him and stuff. So he's obviously creating this fake romantic interest with her. And Anna is going to go and try and find Jonathan Gilbert's journal. Stefan and Elena are also looking for the journal in one of Elena's dad's boxes. And they're just chatting, and Elena says that it's really sad and twisted that everything Damon does he thinks is for love. And Stefan basically says no, it's because he enjoys inflicting pain upon others. Whenever I've let Damon come in, something has always made me regret that. Yeah, okay. And if you think this sibling rivalry is bad, wait till you see some of the siblings in season 3 of the Vampire Diaries that get introduced. Ooh. So Elena finds something in a box, which is a picture of their ancestor Jonathan Gilbert, and a muzzle. Like, you know, something you put over a dog's mouth or just an animal's mouth. Yeah, pretty creepy, but we'll find out soon what that's from. And then Jeremy comes over, finds out that they're looking for the journal, and reveals that he gave it to Mr. Saltzman. Mr. Saltzman, be careful, you got a lot of people coming after you. So we cut to the high school where Rick's reading Jonathan Gilbert's journal, and the narration turns into a flashback with 3 men from 3 different founding families. We have Jonathan Gilbert, Barnett Lockwood, and we have a semi-important character there as well, Giuseppe Salvatore, who is Damon and Stefan's father. So these 3 founding fathers, if you will, are discussing the Vampire Church Roundup and the compass that Jonathan Gilbert made. So they have this compass that they can use to find the vampires, and then they're going to lock them all in Fell's Church and burn them alive. Okay, this is this event that everyone's been talking about, except we know now that there is a tomb underneath the church where Catherine is presumably in, along with the 26 other vampires. Back into present day, Rick is photocopying the journal because that's a pretty smart move. I guess he doesn't even know people are after it, but like maybe because he was going to return it and he wanted his own copy. And Anna is walking down the halls, and Rick hears all this whooshing, so he grabs like a gun of sorts. It looks like a gun. He just keeps weapons at school. Okay. He goes back to his classroom, shoots, and this long piece of wood ends up going towards Stefan, who obviously catches it. So Stefan then pushes Rick into the desks. He goes flying a little bit. And Stefan actually gives him the gun back and says, I won't hurt you unless you try that again. And then he starts asking him who he really is and what he's doing in Mystic Falls. And he explains that he is a historian, and while researching Virginia, specifically Mystic Falls, he found out some strange things. His wife was a parapsychologist who researched paranormal activity in this town. I didn't even know a parapsychologist was a thing. So Stefan asks Rick where the journal is, and Rick says it's on his desk, and Stefan's like, no, it's not. And then we cut to Anna in her motel room reading the journal. So she obviously ended up stealing it, and she's reading a part of the journal about where her mother is talking to Jonathan Gilbert.
I saw her again today. The most beautiful woman in town, with a name just as pretty. Pearl.
So we cut to another flashback of Catherine talking to Pearl about them leaving town, and Catherine says she'll go with Pearl, but first she needs to turn the Salvatore brothers. And then we cut to the Salvatore brothers talking to their father, Giuseppe.
It is time for us to fight back. Stop these killers.
What are you talking about?
We live amongst demons.
You're being cryptic now, Father. Why don't you just say the word?
Vampires. They exist, and they live amongst us.
And the 2 of them don't look surprised and shocked. Obviously, they already know about this. But why does their father not think that they're not shocked? Like, if somebody told me vampires were real, I would have a bit of a connection. And yeah, the father's basically telling them the plan of the townspeople killing the vampires and how they need to be a part of this. So then we cut to the Gilbert house, and for some reason, Damon is cooking dinner while chatting to Jenna, who's drinking a glass of wine. They're talking about his father's disapproving all of his romantic endeavors, and then she's talking about her failed relationship with Logan, so she still thinks he's alive. And then Elena comes downstairs, so it turns out they're supposed to be having some sort of like family dinner, I guess, with the Salvatores and the Gilberts. So come back to the high school. Stefan finds out from Rick that his wife was attacked by a vampire, and that the vampire he saw drinking her blood was in fact Stefan's brother, Damon. And Stefan says, look, if you want revenge, it's not going to end well. He says, no, I just want to find out what happened to my wife, because when he walked in on them, Damon must have heard him, and he just ran, but his wife's body was not there. It just disappeared, and no one's ever been able to find it. So Stefan tells him he can help him with his wife, but Damon can never know why he is here, because he'll just kill him. So cut to the Gilbert house. Damon is still cooking, and Jenna has left at this point, and he is asking Elena if he can actually trust Stefan. She says yes, but Damon looks in her eyes and says, can I actually trust him? And she says, I'm wearing Vervain, it's not gonna work. And he says, I'm not trying to compel you. And she sticks to her guns and says, yeah, you can trust him. Just lying through her teeth. So we cut back to a flashback of Catherine playing this like game with Giuseppe Salvatore, their father. Damon and Stefan are talking from afar. Stefan wants to tell their father about the vampires, saying maybe if we explain it to him, he'll understand. And Damon's like, no, you cannot tell him. He won't understand. He'll kill her. We have to keep her safe. And he urges Stefan to promise not to tell him, and Stefan agrees. So present day Damon is talking to Elena about trusting Stefan, and Damon says, I just want her back. I'm sure you can understand. And Elena says, I understand you'd do anything to get her back. And Damon says, so you'll understand what I'll do if someone gets in my way. It's getting real serious now, guys. Like, you're deep in this lie, and Damon's making it pretty clear to you that the only thing that matters to him is getting his lover back, and if you get in his way, it's not gonna end well. So, just moral of the story, lying's not good, guys. So, Damon's playing video games with Jeremy, and Jeremy's like, oh my god, how are you so good at this? He's like, quick reflexes, I guess. And Jeremy's phone keeps ringing, and he's not answering it, so Damon's like, who are you dodging? And he's like, oh, just this girl I've been talking to. She's like kind of hot, but like also kind of crazy. And Damon's like, those are the best kinds. Doesn't he know it? And over in the kitchen, Jenna is whispering to Elena, saying that Damon is so hot. And Damon like is listening with his vampiring and is like smirking. And Elena's like, he's an ass. So Damon's like, ugh. It's honestly a really cute moment. People like use that face of Damon's in so many edits because he looks so good. And then Stefan finally shows up late to the family dinner. Stefan and Damon are discussing the missing journal with Elena, and Damon asks Jeremy who he told about the journal. Jeremy just says, that girl Anna. And then Damon's like, the crazy hot one? He's like, yeah. Damon suggests that they go to the grill because that's where Anna wants to meet up with Jeremy, so they can go there and ask about the journal and get it back from her. So then Elena goes upstairs to talk to Bonnie about how her date is going with Ben. And Bonnie's like, oh my god, he's a total hottie. I just want to plant one on him. And Elena's like, well then why don't you? And she says, because I'm a chicken. And then Elena says, you're a powerful witch goddess. Seize the day, Broomhilder. What even is this dialogue? And then Stefan comes upstairs and Elena's like, why didn't you go with Damon and Jeremy to the grill? He's gonna get the journal before us. Stefan says, doesn't matter. And then shows Elena the copy of the journal that he took from Mr. Saltzman. Over at the grill, Jeremy and Anna are playing pool. And that's when Damon finally recognizes who Anna is. And then we cut to a flashback. So Pearl's talking about her flirtations with Jonathan Gilbert to Catherine, and Damon is also there, and they're giggling, and Damon's like, how can you guys be so calm? They're getting closer and closer to figuring out who you are every day. And Catherine says, well, we're the respectable ladies of Mystic Fall. No one's ever going to suspect us. Besides, thanks to Emily, we can walk in the daylight. So this is interesting to me. Does this mean that Catherine was a night-walking vampire before she met Emily? Honestly, Emily is saving the day. And then at the end of the scene, Anna walks in, and we cut to present day, Damon looking at Anna. So he's like piecing it all together now. So cut to the Gilbert house, and Elena and Stefan are reading Jonathan Gilbert's journal, the copy of it, and they found out that spellbook was given from Jonathan to Giuseppe Salvatore, their father. So it's a little bit convoluted. The reason that they were all looking for Jonathan Gilbert's journal is because they all were under the impression that it would point them in the direction as to where Emily Bennett, the witch who casted the spell for the tomb, where her grimoire, which is like a witch's spellbook, where it's located. It's like all these little plot threads are like coming together, and I'm not sure if I'm explaining it very well. And in the copy of the journal, Jonathan writes that Giuseppe said that he would take the spellbook to his grave. And it cuts to a flashback of Stefan talking to his father about his concerns with the vampire eradication plan, because what happens if they're not as evil as everyone thinks? And his father looks really sus at Stefan and says, do you know any of these vampires, and Stefan denies it, but his father is pretty adamant about going through with killing these creatures because they will damn your spirit, and those who sympathize with them will be destroyed as well. So this is like the whole cover-up that they've all been talking about the Confederate soldiers and the deserters or the Union sympathizers were killed in the church. This is like all a cover-up story in the town. They were killing vampires in the church. Honestly, the history of this town, it's so convoluted, but I love it. So we cut to the motel room and Anna walks in and she gets grabbed by Damon, who was waiting there for her, and they both choke each other out, but eventually Damon gives up because she's obviously a wee bit stronger than him because she's actually been a vampire longer. So then we cut to Stefan and Elena out in the forest at this grave. Stefan now has to dig up the corpse of his father. It's pretty sad. And we then cut to Stefan and Catherine, a flashback of Catherine wearing the necklace. You know, that amber necklace. He asked if that was a gift from Damon, and she says, no, it was from Emily, actually. And when will you stop worrying about him? And he says, I just want you all to myself.
Just as he wants me, but I'm the one who gets to make all the rules.
And why is that?
Because I'm spoiled.
Yes, you are.
And she starts like kissing Stefan all over his body and then is about to bite him in the neck, and she starts drinking his blood, which this is always weird to me, like how Catherine was, you know, in love with Damon and Stefan, but she was like feeding off of them. Like, could she have not found anyone else? Anyway, so she's feeding on Stefan and she starts choking because there's vervain in his system, which has never happened before. And Stefan starts freaking out because he doesn't know what's happening to her. And then he's like, Catherine, Catherine, and he's obviously being quite loud. So his father storms into the room and tells Stefan to call the sheriff, and he knew that when Stefan was sympathizing with the creatures, the vampires, that he must have been involved with one, so he tested his theory by putting vervain in his system. Ergo, they found out that Catherine was a vampire. Come back to present day in the motel room with Anna and Damon, and he asks how long she's been in town, and she says,
I arrived around 1:30 Comet, watching you screw up every chance you had to open that tomb.
So she has been here since episode 2 of this season, and no one has known about it. Honestly, she is really living that sly spy energy vibe. She was even at the school dance with Jeremy, where Damon and Stefan both were, and she still managed to avoid them. Honestly, props to her. And he asks her how they haven't crossed paths yet, and she says because she likes to get others to do her dirty work for her. And then that's when he realizes, is that why you turned that Logan guy? So now we finally know why Logan was turned into a vampire. Anna didn't know which founding family's journal had the location of the grimoire written in it, and Logan is a Fell, one of the founding families, and she just needed to keep him alive for the journals. Logan Fell's ancestors journal, Honoria Fell, and in her journal she said that she gave the grimoire to Jonathan Gilbert. Anyway, so Anna tells Damon the information that grimoire was passed on to Giuseppe Salvatore, so she wants Damon's help to find it, and he says, sorry, but I work alone. That was a bit of a bad play, Anna, because you just revealed all the information Damon needed, because obviously he's going to know where his father's grave is and you aren't, so a little disappointed in you. You were doing well and then you fumbled the bag. Anyway, moving on. So Bonnie goes and plants a big kiss on Ben, and that's when she pulls back because she feels that feeling that she felt earlier in the show when she touched Stefan, or when she touches any vampire, is that feeling of like death. So like if a witch touches a vampire, they can tell that they're a vampire. So she kind of freaks out, but like holds it together very well. So she goes to the bathroom, but is actually trying to leave, but then he catches her, grabs her by the mouth, and takes her away. So Stefan finally gets to the bottom of his father's grave, opens the coffin, there's a skeleton, he grabs the grimoire. He looks very emotional. Obviously, digging up the grave of your dead parent would be very emotional. And just when this is happening, Damon shows up, and he is obviously very pissed that Stefan and Elena did this without him. And Stefan says that he can't let Damon bring Catherine back, and they argue about trust back and forth, but Damon seems a lot more hurt by Elena.
Of course I was gonna do it by myself, because the only one I can count on is me. You made sure of that many years ago, Stefan. But you had me fooled.
So that's kind of upsetting to see how he reacts to that. And then he tells Stefan that if he destroys the grimoire, he's gonna rip Elena's heart out. And Stefan's like, you won't hurt her. Is this the opportunity for you to bluff, Stefan? Because then Damon, Vamp Speeds, grabs Elena, feeds her his blood, and he says, maybe not, but I can snap her neck and then we can have our very own vampire girlfriend to share. Okay, it's getting messy, guys. It's getting messy. So then Stefan finally gives in, gives Damon the grimoire, and then Damon gives Stefan Elena back. And they both leave, and Damon looks very sad because he really has no one at this point, I guess. So then we cut to a flashback of all of the townspeople gathering the vampires, and they start putting muzzles on their mouths, but they were like shooting them with wooden bullets and injecting them with vervain. So if anything, you shouldn't be worried about them biting you. You should be worried about them physically doing stuff with limbs. But I digress. The townspeople were obviously very uneducated. So one of the vampires that they are carting away is Catherine, and Damon tries to stop them, but his father says that Damon will be killed if he's a sympathizer, and Damon says, then let me be killed. And Stefan tells Damon that he'll help get Catherine back, which at this point, what are you going to do? And Damon blames Stefan for basically outing Catherine to his father, which in some ways he kind of did. So then this is part of the reason that Damon wants to give Stefan an eternity of misery, and why he hates him and stuff is because his lover got sent away because of Stefan outing her to their father. And we cut to present day. Stefan's talking to Elena, and he's realizing that all this stuff that's happened between Catherine, Stefan, and Damon is his fault.
I put my faith in my father, but Damon put his faith in me, and I destroyed that.
And this is why Damon can't trust him. And Elena's like, Stefan, you did nothing wrong, which you did. You both lied to him and gave him false trust. Anyway, so Elena's feeling really weird. She's feeling like nauseous and uncomfortable and has a headache after like consuming Damon's blood, which is kind of weird. That doesn't usually happen. Stefan goes downstairs to get Elena an aspirin from Jenna. So Jenna's looking for that aspirin, and then German and then Jeremy comes down and is like, oh, where'd she go? And Jenna says, oh, she went to the bathroom. And Stefan's like, oh, who's this? And Jenna's like, oh, Jeremy has a friend over. And then Jeremy reveals Anna. Stefan has a flashback to the 1864 Vampire Roundup, and it's of Anna and her mother trying to run away, but then her mother is going to go try steal a horse. So she tells Anna to go get Emily, and she's trying to unravel the horse's like leash or whatever so she can take it. But then Jonathan Gilbert shows up and is talking to her and is like, have you seen what's going on? It's like crazy. They're finding all these vampires. But he's holding the magical compass, and the compass starts pointing to Pearl. And Pearl begs him not to say anything because they have this romantic bond. But he does anyway and says, I have another one here, guys. And she tries to run, but they start shooting her in the back with wooden bullets. She falls down. They grab her, put her in a muzzle, and cart her away. And Anna has seen this whole thing happen over hiding behind a bush with Emily Bennett, and she's crying. And Emily says, it's okay, you'll see them again. I'm gonna protect them, meaning the tomb. And Stefan had seen this whole thing happen, and we cut to present day, and Stefan runs up the stairs to Elena's bedroom. We see that she's gone and that her window's open, the curtains flowing in the wind. So Elena's been kidnapped by Anna, and Bonnie's been kidnapped by Ben. The goosebumps I felt when I first watched this episode, I was shook. So yeah, I really love this episode. I really love the flashbacks. I think they add a lot to the story. They don't use them in places where they shouldn't, and we are finally getting to see a lot more of what happened back in 1864 with this tomb and the church and the Vampire Roundup and Catherine and everything that kind of went down. A lot of the stuff happening in present day is linking back to what happened back then, and I think it's all done very well. I think season 1 is very solid. So the leather jacket is back on because the aircon finally decided to cooperate, so I feel much better. It's not a Vampire Diaries, sir, if you're not wearing a leather jacket. Anyway, on to episode 14, Fool Me Once, the final episode for this chapter. So Elena wakes up in this motel room and she sees Ben sleeping in a chair. So she tries to tiptoe her way out of there, and she's about to open the door, but he wakes up and stops her and compels her to stay put. However, we know as the audience, and Elena knows, that she is wearing a vervain necklace that Stefan gave her that prevents compulsion, but he doesn't know this. So he goes to sit down and she tries to escape again, but Anna walks through the front door and stops her. And he's like, I did that like mind control thing you showed me. She's like, she runs with the Silverton brothers, you idiot. She's obviously got vervain on her. So Anna shoves Elena in the bathroom and locks her in there, and Elena finds a body in the bathtub, and that body is Bonnie Bennett. Ooh, oh my god, the horror vibes, guys. It's getting intense here. So overnight, Stefan's been searching for Elena, and he goes over to Damon saying like, you saw Anna, where is she staying? Please help. But obviously Damon's still super salty about what Stefan and Elena did to him, betraying him, so he's not willing to cooperate and give Stefan the information that he needs. What's even more messed up is that Damon tells Stefan that he sincerely hopes that Elena dies. That's, wow, that's very interesting. Sorry, okay, let's remember that. So Elena wakes Bonnie up and they run the tap so that they can talk freely. Yeah, whenever they want to talk but don't want vampires to hear them, like run a tap, put on a blender, just put on anything that makes a noise that will disrupt their hearing. So Bonnie's wondering what the hell is going on, and Elena explains to Bonnie that they need a witch to help break the spell and open the tomb, and she didn't tell Bonnie this because she didn't want to get her involved. However, Bonnie's like the only witch in this area besides her Graham, so she's gonna get involved regardless. But then Ben opens the door and barges in, and Bonnie says that she's not going to help them, and he says that's why they have Elena, to motivate her. And he shoves Elena back in the room with Anna.
Elena Gilbert, you really are Catherine's doppelganger. You must have the Salvatore boys reeling.
Who are you?
I'm Anna. Your brother may have mentioned me. I mean, we're like practically dating.
So cut to Jeremy at the grill doing his homework. Obviously he's so oblivious to everything that's going on. And at the grill as well, we have Matt bussing tables, and Tyler, we haven't seen him in a while, which has been really nice, really refreshing. He's talking about this guy Duke, who's throwing a big party in the woods, and he's got like 10 kegs, so he's gonna be like his best friend because he's got all the booze, right? And Jeremy can overhear them and scoffs, and Tyler calls him out being like a douche again.
What's the problem, Gilbert? Don't have one, Lockwood. Yeah, I didn't think so.
And Matt's like,
do you ever get bored of it? Of what? Yourself?
Sometimes he serves, you know? So then Caroline arrives and asks Jeremy where Bonnie and Elena are because of Duke's party. And he's like, oh, who's this Duke guy? She's like, oh, well, he's basically this guy who goes to Duke University and he comes back every year and throws this big party. And he's like, what, Duke goes to Duke? And she's like, his real name's Bob, but blah, 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 whatever. Just come to the party in the forest. Doesn't really want to go, but she's like, come on, don't be such a loner, Jeremy. And then she walks over to try and talk to Matt. And she says she has a speech for him and that the speech is a you kissed me and I don't want things to be weird speech, where she basically says to him that I don't want to make assumptions about what we're doing, so if you want to bail now, that's fine. But he doesn't want to, and they agree to go to Duke's party together. So it looks like they're doing well for now. Because one thing about the Vampire Diaries is the couple don't stay good for too long. Damon goes over to Sheila Bennett's house looking for Bonnie, and she's pretty standoffish, like, why the hell would I tell you? He is like, why don't you come outside and say that to me? And then she starts frying his brain with her magic. Okay, fun.
You don't want to mess with me.
This is very big witch power that plays throughout the show, that the witches can like fry a vampire's brain. I think it was mentioned once by Bonnie that it's them bursting their blood vessels or something, but obviously because they're vampire they heal overnight. Oh no, it's giving them an aneurysm. I don't know, they're doing something in their brain that messes them up. So back at the motel, Anna reveals to Elena that she wants to open the tomb because her mother is in there, and that Catherine is the reason that everyone got caught because she was too busy messing around with the Salvatore brothers. And then she calls Stefan from Elena's phone saying she'll give her back if she gets the grimoire, which remember, Damon is currently in possession of. And remember, Damon doesn't care about Elena's life at this point.
Go ahead. Grovel again. Oh, wait, no. I don't care.
Anna's leaving and tells Ben that compulsion won't work on these two, so just use violence to keep them in order. So Elena asks if she can get a glass of water, and Ben gives her one. Bonnie asks if she can have a sip of it, and Elena's like, what the hell? Okay, but then Bonnie gives her a look, so she gives it to her, and then Bonnie throws the water onto Ben, and it like lights him on fire. So funny, she can use water as like gasoline in some ways. That's interesting. So they both try and run, but Ben grabs Elena, which gets Bonnie to come back into the room, and he locks them in there. It was a good plan, but the execution wasn't there. So Jeremy bumps into Anna at the town square, and he invites her to Duke's party, and she says, oh, you're finally ready to go out with me? And he's like, I like you, you're fun, but also kind of strange, so I guess I like that too. But she's so preoccupied with everything else she's got going on, she's a woman on a mission, so she's not really interested, but it's only when he tells her that the party is at the old cemetery by Fell's Church in the forest that she agrees to go, because she's gonna go there anyway, because remember, the tomb is under there. Honestly, it's so funny how this party just happens to be occurring near an abandoned cemetery in the forest where underneath there is a tomb of 26 starving vampires that are about to be released. Then Anna goes and sits on a park bench where Damon arrives. He's still going on about how he works alone, but she's like, I have the witch and you have the grimoire, so it's in our best interest to just work together. So they agree to work together and meet up at the tomb after sundown. So Elena and Bonnie are still in the motel with Ben when all of a sudden Stefan breaks in and starts opening all of the curtains so that Ben's skin starts burning, because remember, he's a night walker, so he goes and hides behind a bed, and Elena and Bonnie run out, and he says to him, you better be out of town by the time the sun goes down, otherwise I'll kill you. Honestly, Stefan, why did you even show him mercy? You should have just killed him on the spot. Bonnie's at her Graham's house asking where she was. And her Grams tells Bonnie that when she found out Bonnie was gone, she was so angry, and with all that emotion, she was able to conduct a locator spell. So this is another new witchy spell. I'm honestly really excited for when Bonnie starts getting more into her witchiness and her powers, because then we can talk about that more. But that's a big spell in this universe, is a locator spell. You just have to have like an item that belongs to the person you're trying to find, and then you can conduct a locator spell on them, unless there is a cloak over them. I don't know, there's all these different rules and stuff. That's how they found her, and then she told Stefan, and Stefan went and saved them. So they're all talking, and Elena says they should let Damon get Catherine, otherwise he's never gonna let this go. And Bonnie's against this idea, but her Grams actually says that she'll do it. She says she'll help Damon get his girl, but the rest of the vampires in the tomb must be destroyed with fire, and then all of this will be over. But they're all worried that Damon won't agree to work with them after Elena and Stefan double-crossed him, so Elena is gonna go talk to him. But before that, Anna comes back to the motel to find that Bonnie and Elena have escaped, and she's pretty pissed at Ben, and she ends up just saying, Damon's not gonna stop, so we'll just go to the tomb, and we'll be there when he opens it, and then she'll get her mother. Over at the Salvatore house, Elena is talking to Damon to let him know that Bonnie and her Grams are willing to help him get Catherine back. And she says she's not sorry for getting the Grimoire without him, because she was just protecting the ones that she loves, like how he's doing with Catherine. But he doesn't really want to work with them again. He's like, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. But she pushes further and says, how come you didn't compel me when we were at Atlanta? And he's like, how do you know I didn't? And she says, I know you didn't.
You and I, we have something. An understanding.
And I know my betrayal hurt you, but I promise I'll help you get Catherine back. And he's really struggling to believe her, so she takes off her necklace so he can compel her, but he ends up not doing it anyway, and that's enough for him to trust her, and just says, I didn't compel you in Atlanta because we were having fun, and I wanted it to be real. And I'm trusting you, don't make me regret it. So this is really cute. I feel like it's nice that Elena at this point is recognizing that there is something between her and Damon. Not sure what it is, some sort of connection. It's just something that needs to be developed in a slow burn. And obviously it's a bit difficult with all the backstabbing. So the two of them arrive in the forest, and Duke's party is happening, and Elena's like, oh my god, I forgot. So there's like a ton of teenagers all over the place getting drunk, not too far from the tomb. They bump into Caroline and Matt, and Caroline grabs Matt's hand. It's kind of awkward, everybody notices it, but then Damon and Elena end up just walking off, and the two of them meet up with Grams, Bonnie, and Stefan, and Stefan has like 2 cans of gasoline and a flamethrower, so that's what he's going to use to destroy all those tomb vampires. And then over at Duke's party, which by the way, we never actually meet Duke. It's kind of funny. Tyler asks Jeremy if he has any of the devil's lettuce, and Jeremy's like, what the hell, dude? Like, you've treated me awful for ages, and now you want to get ganja for me? And he's like, lighten up, dude, it's a party. Ugh, why are you such a loner? Do you even have any friends? Honestly, he's just such a bully. But then Anna shows up, so it looks like Jeremy does have a friend. She asks Jeremy to go for a walk. So now they're all underground in front of the tomb door. Grams is lighting 4 different torches on fire to represent the different elements. I'm not sure why all of them are represented through fire. And also, side note, Damon has a blood bag for Catherine for her to drink when they get into the tomb.
Gotta have something to get her going. Unless your girl's offering up a vein to town. You can't wait to get rid of me.
So going back to Anna and Jeremy, she tells him that she's leaving because her and her mom are moving away, and he seems upset because he was like starting to like her at this point. So they have a goodbye kiss, and her eyes start to get all veiny.
Anna, your face.
It's nothing.
It didn't look like nothing.
And Jeremy gets hit in the head. And the person who did it was Ben. So I guess he didn't listen to Stephanie and leave town. And she's like, you didn't have to hit him that hard. But she's like, anyway, grab him. I'm gonna take him to go and meet my mother. Ugh, so back to the humans. So boring. Tyler snatches Matt's drink and he's being a dick to him as usual. And Matt's like, he doesn't know if he can do this whole public dating thing with Caroline because she seems really clingy. So speak of the devil, Caroline shows up and Tyler says he's not drunk enough to deal with this. So he leaves to go grab another drink, and she gives him another speech and says, that thing that happened earlier with Elena, me grabbing your hand, it was lame, and I'm sorry, but it was more about Damon because he always used to treat me really badly, and I just wanted to show him that I was with a good guy. And they make up, so all is good for now, seems sweet. So Grams and Bonnie are holding hands, doing their witchy chant together. And the fire starts to grow bigger and bigger. And the tomb door opens.
It worked.
And like one would be confused at this point how they even did this, because they kept going on and on about how they needed the crystal and a celestial event like the comet, and they don't have either of those two things. But we'll find out soon enough how this worked. But the other characters don't seem sus by that. But also important to note that obviously the original tomb spell was done by Emily Bennett, and these are two Bennett witches putting their power together, which makes them stronger. Bloodlines, when it comes to witches, are very important in the show, and one of the most prominent witch bloodlines is the Bennett line, which we will discover as we go on. So Damon takes Elena with him into the tomb as leverage to make sure that they don't shut him in there. Above ground, Stefan runs into Ben and Anna, and she wants to go down there. He doesn't want to let her, but she says, either you can stop me or you can stop Ben, who's about to have Elena's little brother for dinner. So obviously Stefan focuses on this, and Anna is able to go down. So back down under in the tomb, Damon and Elena are walking through, and Elena can hear a lot of whispering.
What is that?
They can sense you. Now, where is she?
Damon?
So at this point, Anna has walked underground to the entrance of the tomb, and she wants to go in, but Bonnie doesn't want to let her. And her Grams is like, just let her go in. So she does, and Bonnie's like, why did you do that? And her Grams reveals to us, because none of them are coming out. So, what does this mean? Let's wait and see. So Stefan starts telling Ben that he's disposable to Anna and that she's just using him, but he doesn't really seem to care because he's just happy he's got like an immortal life now. And he says to Stefan, you don't feed on people, do you? So you're not strong enough. So he tries to stake on Stefan to like kill him, but obviously Stefan has a flamethrower. So he just burns Ben alive to a crisp.
Is that all you got? No, I got this.
And he dies. R.I.P. Ben, you were like literally so useless, very stupid. Honestly, that flamethrower moment, slay Stefan. So Elena sees all of the rotting vampires. They literally look like rotting corpses. They're like gray. It's pretty gnarly. And she's obviously freaking out because like they open their eyes and like you can see these bloodshot red eyes, but they can't really move. Stefan goes under, and when he finds out Elena's in the tomb, he wants to run in and save her, but her Grams tells him to stop and says, Stefan, don't. If you go in there, you won't be able to come out. And this is where we find out that she didn't actually open the tomb, she just opened the door. In the sense where like the seal is still there. She didn't lift the seal. So she opened the door and vampires can go in, but they can't come out. She says some seals keep vampires out, like how vampires can't come into your home unless you invite them in. And some seals keep vampires in, like the one in the tomb. So basically, at this point, Damon and Anna are going to be stuck in the tomb. But obviously, because Elena is human, she'll be able to come out.
You were never planning on breaking the spell, were you?
I told you. I will protect my own.
So this was Grams' plan all along, because obviously it doesn't make sense for her to want to help Damon get Catherine. I honestly respect how she played them all like a fiddle. So Anna makes her way into the tomb and like grabs Elena to use her to feed to her mother.
Your boyfriend did this, you know. His father did. And Jonathan Gilbert.
And she says, a Gilbert put her in here, so I always knew it would be a Gilbert who gets her out. I had Jeremy lined up and ready to go, but you'll do. So she brings Elena down, bites her wrist, and put it to her mother's mouth, and she starts drinking it. Elena screams, which then makes Stefan run in to go and save her, even though he knows he's going to be stuck. Bonnie then freaks out because obviously she likes Stefan and doesn't want him to be stuck in there, so she tells her Grams that they have to help lift the seal so Stefan can come out. And her Grams is pretty adamant that they can't do that, their power's not strong enough.
Even if we were able to bring the seal down, there's no guarantee that we could get it back up again.
There's all these risk factors, you know? But Bonnie's pretty adamant that they do it anyway. So Stefan inside the tomb had gotten Elena and brought her out, and then she was wondering why he couldn't come out, and that's when they all explained what was going on to her, and she's obviously upset because she's like, you went in there without knowing you could come out, and he said, I heard you scream, like I needed to help you. And then Bonnie explains that they're gonna open it, so they'll get him out, and Elena says, we can't leave Damon in there, Stefan. We promised him. So Stefan goes back in to try and bring Damon out, and Damon is freaking out in there because he can't find Catherine's body anywhere. So it turns out she's not even in the tomb.
She's not here.
What?
She's not here!
and he gets really mad and throws that blood bag that he had at the wall. And at this point, the witches have gotten the seal open, so Anna and her mother are able to leave, and Anna says to Elena, I just wanted to get my mother back. Jeremy's fine, and she leaves. Honestly, I think Anna is justified in everything that she's done. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think she actually wanted Jeremy to get hurt. Part of me thinks she liked him at this point. Anyway, Stefan's trying to plead to Damon that they need to go, otherwise they'll be stuck there. It's not worth spending so many years over and over trying to find her and trying to get her out of this tomb, all this nonsense, but he's not really budging. So then Elena can see that Bonnie and her Grams are struggling to keep the seal open, so Elena runs into the tomb to get Damon and Stefan out. She's like, guys, you gotta leave now, and they agree with her. They all leave the tomb and make it out in time, and then the seal is shut. So basically, the only person who won in this situation was Anna. She got her mother back, but Damon lost big time. And just to mention, while the witches were doing this spell, Grams and Bonnie looked really drained. I mean, the power in a way seems like it really takes a lot out of them physically. So yeah, I mean, keeping that seal open was really challenging for them. So over at the party upstairs, Matt asks Caroline if her being open and honest is real. So she decides to give him speech number 3. I'm so sick and tired of these speeches, Caroline. She says she wants this to work, but she's scared he's going to change his mind. And he says he doesn't want to mess this up. And they kiss. And then above the tomb, still at the forest, Stefan and Elena find Jeremy and make sure that he is okay. And Damon is looking so gutted. Obviously, he spent almost 150 years trying to get Catherine out of his tomb, and Elena goes and gives him a hug.
I'm sorry.
And it's really cute, especially because like he's been pretty nasty to her at this point, but also she was nasty to him, so it's like somewhat justified. I mean, his methods were a lot more extreme. Cute, 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 but at this point I'm focused on the tomb, okay? So over at the Bennett house, Grams is looking super weak, and Bonnie's kind of fawning over her. She's worried, but her Grams is like, don't worry, I'll be fine. So over at the Goodwood house, Elena gives Jeremy an aspirin for his headache, and at this point he's just like, I'm so sorry, like I don't know what happened, I must have just gotten too drunk. And she's like, you don't remember anything? And he's like, no. So she believes that he has no idea about what happened, but when she leaves his room, Jeremy starts Googling, or should I say binging. Why is everyone always using Bing on these shows? Binging vampires. So clearly Jeremy knows at this point, but he doesn't want Elena to know that he knows, otherwise she'll probably just get someone to make him forget. So Anna takes her mother back to the motel where Damon is waiting, and Damon starts choking Pearl out, and she's obviously very frail. Like, she hasn't had much to drink, and yeah, Damon's basically upset because he's like, how come you get to have your happy ending? What, blah, 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 blah. Where's Catherine? And then Pearl's like, Catherine was never there. And Pearl reveals to us that the guard who locked them all in the tomb let Catherine go because he was obsessed with her. And she promised to turn him into a vampire. He releases Pearl, and Anna tells him that the last time she saw Catherine was in Chicago in 1983. And she says, she knew where you were, Damon. She didn't come looking for you. She didn't care. I'm sorry. Ouch! Shot to the heart, 'cause you're too late. Honestly, that's a kick to the guts. Elena goes over to Bonnie's house to kind of help look after Grams because she's pretty tired and stuff. And Bonnie goes to bring her Grams a tea, and she thinks her Grams is sleeping, but then she realizes she's not breathing, and she starts freaking out and starts calling for Elena. Elena calls the ambulance, and Bonnie's rummaging through a spell book trying to find something, but Elena just comforts her because obviously you can't resuscitate her from a spell.
No, no, I can fix this. I can fix this.
It's honestly really sad. Like, Kat Graham is such a great actress. Whenever she breaks down or cries in this show, it really gets me emotionally. And I just feel really bad for her. And I feel really bad for Grams that, like, she died doing this. Out of all the things she could have died from, it was trying to open up the tomb for these people. Like, they didn't deserve it. So I'm really sad that she's gone, but don't worry, we'll see her again. So the episode ends inside of the tomb where a vampire is able to reach out and touch his fingers in a pool of blood from the blood bag that Damon had thrown in there and burst, and he's able to drink it, which kind of like brings him back to life. And he walks through the tomb and opens the door, the stone door to the tomb, which like I don't even know how he was able to do that. If like surely a little bit of blood wouldn't have given him all his strength back, but maybe it was the adrenaline, like, oh my god, I'm back to life. So he opens the tomb and is able to walk through, which obviously reveals to us that the seal of the tomb was not back up, it was still down. And that tomb vampire is Mr. Harper. So we'll get to meet Harper a little bit more in the next episode, as well as the rest of the tomb vampires. Alrighty, so that is the end of this chapter being the resurrection. I got that name from the fact that all of these tomb vampires are in a sense being resurrected. And I really, really liked the end of this chapter. I thought it was so good, and the next chapter is so action-packed. So definitely stick around for the next one, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this video, this chapter. If you did, give it a thumbs up, comment down below your thoughts, subscribe, and turn on the bell for the next one. And make sure you go over to my Patreon, which is linked up below, to check out my companion Vampire Diaries series to this YouTube series. And in those videos, I am breaking down pivotal scenes from the TV show and the episodes that correlate to the YouTube videos. And those videos are so fun. So check out my Patreon link down below. And shout out to my Patreons, my top tier butterfly besties, Justice and Audrey. And including my butterfly besties, my queen bees will also be able to watch my Vampire Diaries companion series, as it is Patreon exclusive content. So shout out to Kate, Chayla, Estelle, Hannah, Joe, Isaline, Mallory, Ryan, Sam, and of course shout out to all of my curious cats as well. And if you want to be a Patreon, click that link in the description. And as well as engaging the video with likes and comments, please also share the video with someone you think might enjoy it. It will really help make the series do better, which means that I can make these videos more often. Alrighty guys, that's it for me in this video. I hope to see you in my next one, and as always, I hope that you have a great day or night wherever you're in the world. Bye!